This is the title track of our CD called Gone Are the Days, a song about awakening in this time and to the present struggles of the world and what we have to do to overcome all these things. So many paths, only one road to choose. If you live for yourself, you know you will lose. In your heart, let true love rule. We are made with godly attributes. Well, things gonna be right when it's right that you choose. Yes, you gotta live up now. Yes, you gotta live up now. Oh yeah, hey, hey. Gone are the days that I used to slumber. Gone are the days that I used to wonder. These are the days the prophets look for. Gone are the days I am awake. The world leaders am working in vain. They made the millions off the slave train. Now they flooded the ghettos with guns and cocaine. Let them go down the drain. Lift up your voice, lift up your heart, lift up your spirit. To the eternal level, live on the one who gives it. Cause him the ancient of days, it's him that we praise. He the only one that can bust that chain. Live up now, my people. We gotta live up now. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Gone are the days that I used to slumber. Gone are the days that I used to wonder. These are the days Revelation spoke for. Gone are the days I am awake, like a storm rising. Where do we begin? Well, some have a lot, the most have nothing. Out of the mouths of the babes and suckling. Yes, we ask on the question, brutality. The system not providing for none of we needs, but them going in a luxury. What they're living unjustly, cause enough bloodshed. Another youth is dead, but this your judgment upon Babylon gonna be dread. I'm giving thanks for my daily bread. Yes, my eyes stay red. Hey, gone are the days that I used to slumber. Gone are the days that I used to wonder. These are the days Jeremiah spoke for. Gone are the days I am away. Famines and pestilence and war upon the land. Said I know your kingdom and earthquake. Where you gonna stand? Is your house built on sinking sand? When your enemy happens to be your friend, the love has grown cold and now the land work hard. Give a helping hand. I said the race might be hard, but it must be ran. Gone are the days that I used to slumber. Gone are the days that I used to wonder. These are the days Isaiah spoke for. Gone are the days Babylon fade away. Oh, oh, oh. shall fade away. Rise, O children of Abraham. Rise with anciency and the spiritual tradition of righteousness. Gone are those days. Gone are those. Gone are those. Gone are those days. Gone are those. Gone are those. Gone are those days. If you live for yourself, you know you're gonna lose. Choose righteousness. Yeah. Gone are those days. Babylon will fade away. Jericho walls did crumble and fall. Yeah, yeah. So they will at this time. Joshua rules over all. Hey. Jericho walls keep crumbling down, down, down. Jericho walls, they keep crumbling down, down, down. Well, people in the city, the way you're forced to live is not pretty. Too much bloodshed and poverty. Man has lost sanity. Out of politics, commerce and religion.
Can you guys hear me if you guys are there and available? Guitar loud, vocals just right. Just a little quick mic check. How about meow? Test it 1, 2. Holy, holy, there is no one else like you. Cool. So how's Jeremiah?
Doing good, doing good.
Gonna go grab the shofar.
All right.
I want to start off today with like, Shalom, Miss Pacha. May Yahweh Baruch you today. Like, just try to be like super.
Oh
Weird.
my goodness. Be like the black Hebrew Israelites and see how many Hebrew English words we can throw out.
You're gonna have to come by my rental. I've got set up pretty good in here now.
Yeah, we might have two people watching. It looks like JT and Jamie Russell are both here,
Oh yeah?
or at least they were. Until I started playing music, and then they were like, "Oh, this is terrible. I gotta get out of here." And then you started playing music, and I'm not sure where we are now.
Gotcha. So you are YouTubing it?
Yep.
Gotcha. Well, thanks. You didn't let me know that.
People be interested, man. You're so awesome.
Well, it's 10:45. It's like sound check time, and you're like broadcasting it live for 44 million people to view.
Yeah. Well, it's more like 44 billion. I had some Joseph Israel going, but then he started playing guitar, so I was like, well, I guess I better turn off my music because he's got cooler music. I had a really good talk earlier this week. I think it was a couple days ago. It was it's me, Jamie, Russell, and CJ Cox from the Synagogue show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to talk to him for a couple hours, or both of them for a couple hours. But yeah, we had a pretty good talk. Got to go
Get
over
any
quite a few things.
juiciness?
Um, yeah, I think we started. At least I think the interesting part was like the Colossians 2, like Hebrews debate. Um, and then just kind of went from there. Of course, CJ is still a little bit different than Jamie Russell and myself. You know, like we're all three different. It's like a spectrum. So we got some pretty good answers out there.
Is CJ, is he the what's his alias or his
The
is he
synagogue.
synagogue? Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I've always enjoyed hearing him speak when he gets to.
dude, I wish I had half of that kid's knowledge at 24. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I've only been doing this for like what 9 years. So 10 years ago, I wasn't even hadn't even really started.
Oh, I'm still a babe. I don't study enough, which is why my motivation to do this and actually get through a year of doing Torah portions and get through the Torah in a year, and know that I've been through it.
Yeah, yep.
Too loud. Test my screen share here. I don't want to share system audio. Note to self. That's what caused the echo last week. That drove everyone crazy.
Is that part of the screen share? I've never paid attention.
Yeah, there's a tick box down at the bottom that you can check.
Okay.
I got
And it worked until I did the digital voice meter mixer. It kind of activated it all at the same time, if you will, and caused kind of a delay or loop.
Gotcha. Um, with that voice meter, whenever you joined Jitsi, um did it ask you which microphone to use? Whether it was using the voice meter or like your just microphone?
Yes. So I have to select voice meter in Jitsi, and then that's you have to have voice meter opened up already, and then from there you can actually see the bounce of your levels. And I have to
Gotcha.
pick which two stereo interfaces I want to use off my board. And in my case, I picked my guitar and my condenser microphone,
Gotcha.
so I can kind
Okay.
of balance them out. I just
Fancy.
can't hear what's happening on the other side.
Right. I've got hotkeys for my stream mic, but I still have to use like the regular mute and unmute button on Jitsi. So I kind of have to press two buttons at once, or click and press a button.
Yeah, I didn't know, but I can't mute my microphone from my mixing board and mute you guys. It only mutes it in my headphones.
Gotcha.
Because I muted it a couple of weeks ago and killed Phantom Power and like blew you and Jamie's or I forget who it was, maybe your eardrums out.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, what is the name of the Torah portion this week?
Verashid, let me. Yeah, no, Vayetzei.
Vayetzei.
Let me do this for you. You can see it there on my screen share, meow.
Okay, yeah. Because I don't think I would have spelled that one right.
And I don't know that I said it right even, but there you
Right.
have it nonetheless. I just get through it.
No, that seems pretty close.
I wouldn't know any better, so I'm gonna go with
Right?
it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna embarrass myself trying to correct you on that one. That's for sure. All right, I got it. Appreciate it.
Yep. I'm still getting my coffee input. I just kind of slept in a little too late. Did a little bit of too much shaloming.
Are you being lazy on the Shabbat and just
Yeah,
not
right.
not working hard enough? Is that what the deal is?
That was nice. I slept like 8:30. That's unheard of, it seems.
That is unheard of for you. I mean, I can't really imagine you sleeping much past 7 without staying up past midnight. And that's like
Yeah.
me holding your feet to the fire, like forcing you to stay awake.
Nope. I was probably asleep by 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
Yahoo, the other Yahoo, he was here and we played some music last night and he didn't leave till almost 11, but it was
What?
pleasant.
Wow.
Yep.
Didn't even throw out the invite.
Nope. Well, I didn't want you to like mess up the vibe that we had going on with our music.
Right. Right, yeah.
No,
I mean
I
that
kid.
does check out. Like I would definitely mess up the music vibe.
Yeah, then we'd be more hanging out and not jamming. So
Mm-hmm.
there you have it.
Is he
No,
coming
it
over
was.
or I mean is he gonna be joining us this morning?
I doubt it. He's dealing with his dad at the hospital, which was my next thought. Is I was going to have you guys pray for his dad, who's been having severe headaches and just not doing so well mentally. Um, he sent me a text earlier to ask to pray for his dad. So yeah,
Gotcha.
I guess it's just you and Tabby here now, but there you guys go. Something to pray on.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely.
No, we just synced together really well and had a really good jam session.
Awesome.
Even him being a little rusty, haven't playing so much in a while, he did immaculate. It was a lot of fun. So we're gonna get together and hopefully write some music, get together some other band members, y'all willing, and y'all seen fit, who it be. That's the plan, anyways.
What does he play? Is he just
Drums.
drums?
hmm
Okay.
hmm
So is he on guitar?
Yeah, no other members yet, but I think we're gonna go ahead and do a couple originals and record them. And if I don't have a bass player, I'll just play the bass
Right.
and him and I do vocals. Maybe get his brother Jason, who has like the most incredible voice I may have ever heard, yeah, to come and sing with us. I don't know. At least guest visit occasionally.
Right. I'm not sure if I've got to hear his brother sing or not.
Don't you remember at Not Serene Yeshua Fellowship, the guy that was singing, like his voice carried over everyone and was angelic.
Yeah, maybe I do remember that. It seems like I do remember his brother having a good singing voice.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah,
he's
it's been a while.
he's
It's been
awesome.
a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, it has been, I guess.
Well, I'm only losing 48% of my frames so far. That's good. It's not 65.
Well,
I know it's not your fault. I'm just saying today's not as bad as it usually is.
I haven't really been working on any new songs as I should be, so um, I might just blow the shofar and get into playing some music, maybe, or get into the scripture, and maybe do some music here after a while or something.
Gotcha. Um, Man, what was I gonna ask you? Um, Man. Now I cannot remember. It was right there. Grr. What was that? Oh, did you watch the Great Commission conference?
No, I have not. Man, I kind of forgot that I needed to. Yeah. How good was it? Any like highlights, key points?
Um, well, it was pre-recorded, which is understandable. I can't imagine getting the people that they did together all at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then what was it, a Sunday? I can't even remember what day of the week it was. I think it was a Sunday. But anyway, so it was pre-recorded, and then I really did enjoy Zach and Steve's portion of it, and then the question and answer was really good. Like they hit some hard, tough questions. Like what do we do with the people that end up denying Jesus and going into Judaism and stuff like that.
Wow,
Yeah, like
that's definitely a good
fellowship and
topic.
yeah, fellowship and how to fellowship and when to break fellowship, stuff like that. And then Zach's newest video was kind of built on top of it, I guess.
Okay.
Um, Steve's newest video, Spirit and Truth, was really good too. Made some good points in it. Gotta love those Baptist-costals.
I haven't been watching enough videos. What time is it? It's 10:59. Yeah, we're getting right on it. Better slurp some of this coffee down. Sorry for the slurpy slurp. This condenser mic picks up everything.
Right? It's terrible. Terrible, terrible. No, it's not that bad.
Good.
Is JT and Jamie still out there? Check, check. Testing 1, 2. Might have to throw y'all the link out so we have some extra people to
Jiu-jitsu.
discuss this with. Man, I've been getting spam calls off the freaking hook. Like
You're welcome.
I bet I got 6 or 7 of them just yesterday.
I sold you and a bunch of my other friends' phone numbers to a spammer.
That I do believe. But yeah, there was so many yesterday. I had to call my voicemail and listen, and they wouldn't even say anything. It was just dead air. It wasn't even like entertaining to listen to the
Well, that's how they
voicemail.
know that someone answers it. It's dead air, and then that's when they start really
No, no, no.
blowing you
Like the
up.
voicemail was just dead air.
Hmm.
Like there wasn't even like an auto thing playing. It was annoying.
They'll call you with an auto dialer, and then if you pick up,
Gotcha.
sometimes they don't answer, and then that's when they'll actually start sending more stuff your way. It's like they hack phone numbers to see which ones have real people there.
Right. Yeah, they weren't very good. They used the same number twice a couple of times. But yeah,
I have to start paying them less.
I guess I don't know.
They're paying them more. I don't know how that works. Well,
Your house is pretty quiet this morning. What's Evelyn up to? Or the kid?
Tabby and Evie are at Jane's.
Gotcha. I thought it was a bit too quiet.
Yeah,
I think
I put sound
mine's still
dampening up
sleeping.
in the corners here. That's helped out a lot. I mean, also does lack of a small child.
Yeah, I think the lack of small child helps the noise a lot more than whatever it was that you did. Just gonna throw that out there.
All right.
Do you have admin controls if I do share the link?
What is it, Meow?
So do you have admin controls if I do share the link? Like I don't think we'll have any issues. I just want to be sure.
Do you not have the moderators link anymore?
Um, I would have to look.
And let me just send it to you. I'm not logged into Signal because I don't want it dinging off in my headphones.
Right. Yeah, I had to make sure I had the right screen going on. Is it the moderated link that you shared most recently?
Yes. Yes, Jitsi moderated meetings.
Okay.
Um, wonder if I can PM you this. Do you have the right one?
Well, I hope so, because I just shared it, so we shall see. Of course, I can't pin it from
Did you say the moderator or the guest? I'm confused.
the moderated. Isn't that what you said?
Well, it's a moderated meeting, but did you share the guest login with Jamie or what did you just do? I guess is what I'm asking.
I shared the most recent link that you sent, but I guess that's not the correct one.
The one that I sent like this morning or last night, yeah, that's the correct one for a guest. But if if you don't have the moderated link, I'm sending that to you now via a private message here on Jitsi.
Do. Maybe that's the. Oh wow. Why?
That's a web page. You go to that web page and it gives you the option to join as moderator or share the guest link.
Okay, I think we got it.
You're good?
Yeah. Do. What am I looking for? There we go.
I'm going to go ahead and blow the shofar and we can pray and then do a song.
How many years did you play brass and you still can't blow a shofar?
Yeah, I know.
That's great, sir. That was great.
Father Abba, we ask that you be with us today and as we read your word. We ask that you give us knowledge and understanding and what you want us to see, when you want to see it, and how you want us to see it. We pray that you bless each and every one here, and we look to lift you up. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. Who am I that you are mindful of me? That you hear me when I call? Is it true that you are thinking of me? How you love me? It's amazing. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. He calls me friend. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. He calls me friend. Who am I that you are mindful of me? That you hear me when I call? Is it true that you are thinking of me? How you love me? It's amazing. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. He calls me friend. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. He calls me friend. God Almighty, Lord of glory, you have called me friend. God Almighty, Lord of glory, you have called me friend. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. He calls me friend. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. He calls me friend. Praise the Father.
You're so good at music, sir.
Thank you. I'm a ghost. I disappeared. Now I'm back. Whoa. Okay. You like that? All right. Today we are doing. What was the name of it, Jeremiah? You want to repeat that? Let me pull it up again.
I already forgot.
Vayetzei.
Sounds great.
And it is Genesis 28, verse 10 through Genesis 32 and 3. So I want to make sure that screen share is going. And it is. Well, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you there, Kaylee and Tina.
Good morning. I can't see the screen share for some reason.
If you tap your screen and then click you'll see the tiles on the right-hand side. You can click the one that's got like the black background and white text.
Are you on your new
No,
laptop?
no, I'm on my phone. I haven't done nothing to the new laptop. I was going to wait and bring it down there.
Well, I
Gotcha.
mean, if you like, you can go to the YouTube stream of it, unless you just, want to put input. I mean, I'm not saying you should do that, but that's another option.
Or
Oh, there we go. I got it now.
Cool.
yeah, or bring up the YouTube
Thank
on
you.
the TV.
Oh, well, I got to take my boots off. We just got back.
Now we're going to smell your
How's farm
feet.
life
I
this
went to go
morning?
play with the baby cat.
Oh,
Again, like I said, I went to go play with the baby calf.
uh,
Uh,
are they in the backyard or across the road?
oh, they're across the road.
Okay.
So if I go to YouTube,
Um, let me see. Here, I can send you a link. Maybe.
what do I need to search for?
Um, I'll just send you a link and
That'd be easier.
Oh, okay.
oh, right. Um, well, no. You can broadcast to your TV, surely, right? Or if I
Um,
send you a text.
maybe. Usually when I try to send stuff to the TV, it goes to Sarah's or Shelby's.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe if you haven't named everything. Otherwise, it's like like YouTube.com and then I think it's slash at Jeremiah 1610. I can't remember.
I don't think there'd be an at in a URL like that.
Right? Maybe it's just .com and then slash Jeremiah 1610. But
That's it.
anyways, it's a lot harder. Like I've tried searching for myself. It's a lot harder than I imagined it to be. JT enjoyed your song. I think it's awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
So it brings me back up to the screen of the Jitsi Meet. Join this meeting using the app, which I'm using on my phone. Download the app and launch in web. It's not.
You sent her the wrong link. Jeez, such a noob. What? Well, I want to go ahead and jump on into it.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I'll just use my phone.
All right, Genesis 28:10. Let me get it on my bottom screen here. So, break my neck. All right, there we go. And Jacob went out to Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he came upon a place and stopped over for the night, for the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of the place and put it at his head, and he lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and he saw a ladder set up on the earth, and its top reached to the heavens, and saw messengers of Elohim going up and coming down on it. And see, Yahuwah stood above it and said, I am Yahuwah, Elohim of Abraham your father, and the Elohim of Yitzchak. The land on which you are lying, I give it to you and your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth. Ye shall break forth to the west and to the east, to the north and the south. And all the clans of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your seed. And see, I am with you, and shall guard you wherever you go, and shall bring you back to this land. For I'm not going to leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. And Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Truly, Yahuwah is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of the heavens." And Jacob rose early in the morning, and took the stone that he had put at his head, set it up at the standing column, and poured oil on top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel. However, the name of that city had been Luz previously. And Jacob made a vow, saying, "Seeing Elohim is with me, and has kept me in this way that I am going, and has given me bread to eat and a garment to put on, when I have returned to my father's house in peace, and Yahuwah has been my Elohim, then the stone which I set as a standing column shall be Elohim's house. And of all that you give me, I shall certainly give a tenth to you." I'm going to go ahead and keep reading on to 29 here, unless anybody has any comments.
Is that like the same place that Abraham left? Was it Luz?
Mm-hmm. As I was reading it, I knew that sounded familiar, and yeah, that's right. I believe so. Why do you ask? I mean, what are you seeing or thinking?
I was just double checking. I was pretty sure it was the same spot, but an unhewed stone and a pillar. Very interesting. Yep, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
I was just looking to see. Kaylee, did you have something you wanted to say? Was I interrupting?
I don't think so. I think she's going to be somewhat distracted getting ready for a birthday party at 1 o'clock. So she said she'd be limited to speak. That's okay. We're still glad to have her here. And Jacob moved on and came to the land of the people of the east. And he looked and saw a well in the field, and saw 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a large stone was on the well's mouth. And all the flocks would be gathered there. Then they would roll the stone from the well's mouth, and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the well's mouth. So Jacob said to them, "My brothers, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." And he said to them, "Do you know Laban, son of Nahor?" And they said, "We know him." So he said to them, "Is he well?" And they said, "Well, and see, and daughter, his Rahel is coming with the sheep." And he said, "See, it is still high day, not the time for the livestock to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go and feed them." But they said, "We are not allowed until all the flocks are gathered together, and they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth, then we shall water the sheep." While he was still speaking with them, Rahel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to be, when Jacob saw Rahel, the son of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rahel and lifted up his voice and wept. And when Jacob told Rahel that he was her father's relative, and that he was Rebekah's son, she ran and told her father. And it came to be, when Laban heard the report from Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him and kissed him, and brought him to his house. Then he told Laban all these matters. And Laban said to him, "You are indeed my bone and my flesh." And he stayed with him for a new moon. And Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for naught? Let me know, what should your wages be?" And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rahel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rahel was beautiful of form and beautiful of appearance. And Jacob loved Rahel, so he said, "Let me serve you 7 years for Rahel, your younger daughter." And Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rahel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had give for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my days are completed, and let me go into her." And Laban gathered all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to be in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. And Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a female servant. And in the morning it came to be that, see, it was Leah. So he said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? What is it not for Rahel that I served you? Or was it not for Rahel that I served you? Why then have you deceived me?" And Laban said, "It is not done this way in our place, to give the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, then we give you this one too, for the service which you shall serve with me serve with me still another 7 years." And Jacob did so and completed her week. Then he gave him his daughter Rahel too as wife. And Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rahel as a female servant. And he also went into Rahel, and he also loved Rahel more than Leah, and he served with Laban still another 7 years. And Yahuwah saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rahel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, "For Yahuwah has looked on my affliction, because now husband is going to love me. For now my husband is going to love me." And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, "Because Yahuwah has heard that I am unloved, he gave me this son too." And she calls his name Shimon. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, "Now this time my husband is joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons." So his name was called Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, "Now I praise Yahuwah." So she called his name Yehudah. And she ceased bearing. Wow. That was a mean thing to do. Like,
A mean thing to do.
hey, here's my daughter. You can have her. Trixie, swapsies.
Yeah,
Now I'm going
pulled
to
the
keep you
old
another 7 years.
switcheroo on him. Loved the blessings that Jacob was bringing in, but didn't want to pay him for it.
Right?
Of course, and then I would also at this point maybe even argue that Jacob didn't quite know the full extent of everything, because at the end of their lives, Leah is the one that's buried in the family tomb that Abraham bought, and Rachel is buried on the side of the road. So,
Hmm.
interesting fact that love-hate
Definitely.
relationship might have gotten switched towards the end of life once Jacob figured out what is really important. You can
Well,
be
in the book of Jubilees, it says that after Rachel died, that Jacob loved Leah with all of his and um, heart and mind, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So after Rachel was gone, he saw Leah for what she was, and he loved her until the day of her death.
right, but like, why wouldn't they just carry um, Rachel's bones with them until they got to Abraham's tomb? Like, why did they bury her? Did they not have time for the bones to, or the body to decay, so that they just had the bones? Or I don't know. I haven't got to fully study it out, because they just said they were on the way. But
I
yeah,
think that
I
even
just
Dinah might have been buried with next to Rachel, but I could be incorrect about that. I'd have to reread that section
Mm-hmm.
in Jubilees.
gotcha.
I could probably find it real quick.
Wait, go back to 29 here.
I also want to know how big these stones were that they were covering up the mouth of the well. I guess that's maybe to keep animals and whatnot out of it. I don't know.
Well, let me pull up
But yeah, they
the
had to
King
roll the
James Book
stone from
Concordance.
the mouth of the well.
Let's just take it back to H68. Just seeing if it would give any sort of reference to size from the root of H1129 through the meaning to build a stone, carbuncle, mason, plummet, chalk hill, bead, sling, stone, diver's weight. Not really that I can see. Do that.
So in chapter 34 of Jubilees, it says that his daughter died after Joseph had perished, and there came these 3 mournings upon Israel in 1 month, and they buried Bilhah over against the tomb of Rachel, and Dinah also his daughter they buried there. And he mourned for Joseph 1 year and did not cease, for he said, "Let me go down to the grave mourning for my son." So I guess in the book of Jubilees, Dinah and Bilhah both passed after the deception of Joseph being sold into slavery, and Jacob was mourning over that. And it says that Bilhah and Dinah were buried next to the tomb of Rachel. So if that's true, then Rachel's burial site had 2 other beloved women. So it might have not just been like, oh, we just buried her on the side of the road and, there's not much care put into it. It could have been a really special place that he also added Bilhah and Dinah to.
Right. I mean, it was outside of Bethlehem, but like, I don't know. It just makes it seem like it's on the side of the road on the way to Bethlehem, and Jacob made, the Israelites carry his bones with them whenever they left Egypt, or Joseph's bones. Man, I can't even remember now. Anyways, yeah, it was. I just thought it was interesting that people don't mind carrying bones around, and then you would expect Rachel to be the one that was buried in the family tomb. So that's all I was really trying to point out. But yeah.
No, I thought the same thing too. Was like Rachel just kind of got buried somewhere, but then when I read it in Jubilees, it made me feel a little bit better for her because she was being buried next to Dinah and Bilhah.
Right.
So it wasn't like she was alone. And it's interesting, in my mind, one of the reasons why they want their bones to be close to family bones, it's because maybe when the resurrection happens and you get your new body, maybe like the point in which you like ascend, maybe you go through those type of burial sites. I'm not sure.
Interesting perspective.
All right. I want to go ahead and jump on into 30. Get a drink of water real quick, though. Bear with me. And when Rahel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rahel envied her sister and said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I'm going to die." And Jacob's displeasure burned against Rahel, and he said, "Am I in the place of Elohim, who has withheld you from the fruit of the womb?" And she said, "See, my female servant Bilhah, go into her, and let her bear for me, and let me be built up from her as well." So she gave him Bilhah, her female servant, as wife, and Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. And Rahel said, Elohim has rightly ruled my case, and has also heard my voice, and given me a son. So she called his name Dan. And Rahel's female servant Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. And Rahel said, With great wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and I have overcome. So she called his name Naphtali. And Leah saw that she had ceased bearing, and she took Zilpah, her female servant, and gave her to Jacob as a wife. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son. And Leah said, Fortune comes. So she called his name Gad. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, I am happy, for the daughter shall call me happy. So she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found love apples in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. And Rahel said to Leah, Please give me some of your son's love apples. But she said to her, Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's love apples too? And Rahel said, Therefore, let him lie with you tonight for your son's love apples. And when Jacob come out of the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, Do come in to me, for indeed I have hired you with my son's love apples. And he lay with her that night. And Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. And Leah said, Elohim has given me my hire, because I have given my female servant to my husband. So she called his name Yissachar. And Leah conceived again and bore Jacob a sixth son. And Leah said, Elohim has presented me with a good present. Now my husband is going to dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. So she called his name Zebulun. And afterward she bore a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And Elohim remembered Rahel, and Elohim listened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son, and said, Elohim has taken away my reproach. So she called his name Joseph, and said, Yahuwah has added to me another son. And it came to be, when Rahel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, Send me on my way, to go to my own place and to my land. Give my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you yourself know my service which I have done for you. And Laban said to him, If I have found favor in your eyes, please stay, for I have diligently watched that Yahuwah has blessed me for your sake. And he said, Name me your wages, and I give it. So he said to him, You know how I have served you, and how your livestock has been with me. For the little you had before I came has increased greatly, and Yahuwah has blessed you since my coming. But now, when am I to provide for my own house too? And he said, What do I give you? And Jacob said, Give me not. If you do this for me, I shall again feed and guard your flocks. Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the black ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and these shall be my wages. And my righteousness shall answer for me in time to come, when you come concerning my wages. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and black among the lambs, it is stolen, if it is with me. And Laban said, See, let it be according to your word. And on that day he set aside the male goats that were speckled and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had some white in it, and all the black ones among the lambs, and gave them into the hands of his sons. And he put 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took for himself rods of green poplar and of the almond and chestnut trees, peeled white strips in them, and exposed the white which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters, in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, and they conceived when they came to drink. So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs, and made the flocks face toward the streaked, and all the black in the flock of Laban but he put his own flocks by themselves and did not put them with the bond's flock. And it came to be, whenever the strong ones of the flock conceived, that Jacob placed the rods before the eyes of the flock in the gutters, so they could conceive among the rods. But when the flocks were weak, he did not put them in. So the weak ones were Laban's, and the strong ones Jacob's. Thus the man increased very much, and had many flocks, and female and male servants, and camels and donkeys. That's the end of 30 there.
Right, it's such a wild chapter.
Right. It's
Like,
definitely wild as a. Yeah.
in the beginning, it almost seems like Rachel and Leah are having, well, not necessarily Leia, but Rachel is having this like competition with her sister, and almost kind of a Cain and Abel way. Like she envied her sister because
Mm-hmm.
her sister was the one producing, well, sons, but just any children for that matter. And then of course she takes things into her own hands and gives her husband the handmaid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But then she even acknowledges it later in the chapter, Yahuwah has taken away my reproach or my sin or my, transgression.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know what's going on with, like, I like that Jacob said that Laban could keep all of the pure goats and sheep, and he would take the
Mm-hmm.
speckled and spotted ones, which would
Mm-hmm.
not be used for sacrifices. And Jacob would know this. I'm fairly positive, or at least I would assume he would know this. So it's weird to me that he would be taking the spotted and speckled ones because they're not used for sacrifices. But
I
it
wondered
makes it
why.
it makes
What?
sense that Laban would have agreed to it, because he's like, well, of course, you're giving me all of the best ones, so why, like, why wouldn't I give you, the speckled and spotted ones, because nobody wants
Mm-hmm.
those that, as far as sacrifice purchases. So yeah, I found that interesting, but then whenever you get down to this reed thing, it almost seems like Jacob maybe doesn't trust God, and he's taking it into his own hands, kind of like Abraham and Isaac did with, telling the kings that it was his sisters. So
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know. I've not gotten a good explanation on this. So
I think there's some
just
sort
things
of
that I think of while you're reading anyway.
there's got to be some tie with that and some sort of meaning we haven't gotten to yet. Just another little piece of the puzzle. But um, yeah, go ahead, Kaylee.
So, in the Testament of Issachar, out of the 12 patriarchs,
Mm-hmm.
it opens up in verse 1. It says, "The copy of the words of Issachar, for he called his sons and said to them, Hearken, my children, to Issachar your father. Give ear to the words of him who is beloved of the Lord. For I was born the 5th son of Jacob by way of hire of the mandrakes. For Reuben my brother brought in mandrakes from the field, and Rachel met him and took them. And Reuben wept, and at his voice Leah my mother came forth. Now these mandrakes were sweet-smelling apples, which were produced in the land of Haran, below a ravine of water. And Rachel said, I will not give them to thee, but they shall be to me instead of children, for the Lord hath despised me. And I have not borne children to Jacob. Now there were 2 apples, and Leah said to Rachel, Let it suffice thee that thou hast taken my husband, wilt thou take these also? And Rachel said to her, Thou shalt have Jacob this night for the mandrakes of thy son. And Leah said to her, Jacob is mine, for I am the wife of his youth. But Rachel said, Boast not and vaunt not thyself, for he espoused me before thee. And for my sake he served my father 14 years. And had not craft increased on the earth, and the wickedness of men prospered, thou wouldest not now see the face of Jacob. Then appeared to Jacob an angel of the Lord, saying, 2 children shall Rachel bear, inasmuch as she hath refused company with her husband, and hath chosen continency, And had not Leah, my mother, paid the 2 apples for the sake of his company, she would have borne 8 sons. For this reason she bare 6. And Rachel bare the 2. For on account of the mandrakes the Lord visited her. For he knew that for the sake of children she wished to company with Jacob, and not for lust of pleasure. For on the morrow also she again gave up Jacob because of the mandrakes. Therefore the Lord hearkened to Rachel, for though she desired them, she eat them not, but offered them in the house of the Lord, presenting them to the priest of the Most High, who was at the time. And mandrakes are actually an aphrodisiac, and they're good for fertility. So she could have took those mandrakes and ate them herself, but instead she offered them to God in in a prayer type to ask him to open her womb. And because of that, it says that she bore 2 children when Leah would have borne those 2 children.
Interesting. Jamie Russell from the chat thinks that the speckled and spotted and streaked animals could signify the Gentiles that come in. Interesting thought.
Sorry, guys, my microphone was muted there and didn't even know it. Anything else on what we've 28 through 30 here?
I don't think so.
Okay, moving on. I'm going to go ahead and read 31. Just actually go ahead and take that to 32 and 3. So this will be the last little chapter of the Torah portion. And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father, he has made all this wealth. And Jacob would look at the face of Laban and see that it was not toward him as before. And Yahuwah said to Jacob, Return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I am with you. Excuse me. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flock, and said to them, I see your father's face, that is not toward me, that it is not toward me as before, but the Elohim of my father has been with me. And you know that I have served you, or served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but Elohim did not allow him to do evil to me. When he said this, the speckled are your wages, then all the flocks bore speckled. And when he said this, the streaked are your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked. So Elohim has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. And it came to be at the time when the flocks conceived that I lifted my eyes and looked in a dream and saw the rams which leaped upon the flocks, which were streaked, speckled, and mottled. I don't know what mottled means. And the messenger of Elohim spoke to me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift your eyes now and see. All the rams which leap on the flocks are streaked, speckled, and mottled, for I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the El of Bethel, where you anointed the standing column, and where you made a vow to me. Now rise up, get out of this land, and return to the land of your relatives. And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Do we still have any portion or inheritance in our father's house? Are we not reckoned by him as strangers? For he has sold us, and also entirely consumed our silver. For all the wealth which Elohim has taken from our father is ours and our children's. Now then, do whatever Elohim has told you. So Jacob rose and put his sons and his wives on camels, and he drove off all the livestock and all his possessions which he had acquired, his property of the livestock which he had acquired in Paddan Aram, to go to his father Yitzchak in the land of Canaan. And when Laban had heard to shear his sheep, Rachel stole the house idols that were her father's. And Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean, because he did not inform him that he was about to flee. And he fled with all that he had. And he rose up and passed over the river and headed toward the mountains of Gilead. And on the third day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. Then he took his brothers with him and pursued him for 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. But in a dream by night, Elohim came to Laban the Aramean and said to him, "Guard yourself, that you do not speak to Jacob, either good or evil." Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brothers pitched in the mountains of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done that you have deceived me and driven my daughters off like captives, taken with the sword? Why did you flee secretly and deceive me and not inform me? And I would have sent you away with joy and songs, with tambourine and lyre. And you do not allow me to kiss my sons and daughters. Now you have been foolish to do this. It is in the power of my hand to do evil to you. But the Elohim of your father spoke to me last night, saying, 'Guard yourself, that you do not speak to Jacob either good or evil.' And now you have gone, because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my mighty ones?" And Jacob answered and said to Laban, "Because I was afraid. For I said, lest you tear your daughters away from me. With whomever you find your mighty ones, do not let him live. In the presence of your brothers, see for yourself what is with me, and take it with you." For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the tents of the 2 female servants, but he did not find them. And he came out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the house idols and put them in the camel's saddle and sat on them. And Laban searched all about the tent, but did not find them. Then she said to her father, "Let it not displease my master that I am unable to rise before you, for the way of women is with me." And he searched, but did not find the house idols. And Jacob was wroth and contended with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, "What is my transgression? What is my sin, that you have not hotly pursued me? Now that you have searched all my goods, what have you found of all your household goods? Set it here before my brothers and your brothers, and let them decide between the 2 of us. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried their young, and I have not eaten the rams of your sheep. That which was torn by beast I did not bring to you. I myself bore the loss of it. You required it from my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was. By the day heat consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Unless the Elohim of my father, and the Elohim of Abraham, and the fear of Yitzchak had been with me, you would not have sent me away empty-handed. Elohim has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rendered judgment last night." And Laban answered and said to Jacob, "These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and this flock is my flock, and all that you see is mine. But what shall I do today to these, my daughters, or to their children whom they have borne? And now, come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and it shall be a witness between you and me." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a standing column. And Jacob said to his brothers, "Gather stones." And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there on the heap. And the bond called it Yagar Sahadutha, but Jacob called it Galad. And the bond said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today. That is why its name was called Galad. Also Mitzpah, because he said, "Let Yahuwah watch between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us, see, Elohim is witness between you and me." And Laban said to Jacob, "See this heap, and see this standing column which I have placed between you and me? This heap is a witness, and the standing column is a witness, that I do not pass beyond this heap to you, and you do not pass beyond this heap and this standing column to me for evil. The Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Nahor, and the Elohim of their father rightly rule between us." And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Yitzchak. And Jacob slaughtered a slaughtering on the mountain, and called his brothers to eat bread. And they ate bread and spent the night on the mountain. And Laban rose up early in the morning, and kissed his sons and daughters, and blessed them. And Laban left and returned to his place. I think it was just 3 more chapters here. Or verses, yeah, just 3. And Jacob went on his way, and the messengers of Elohim met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of Elohim." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother, in the land of Seir, the field of Edom. And that concludes this week's Torah portion.
No, we lost Jamie. Dang. Oh,
It's a
okay.
bummer.
You're more than welcome to stay, Jamie. We just had the last 3 verses to read, and then we were going to discuss it. So you're more than welcome if you want to hop back in.
Yeah, we've still got the Haftarah and Bred Hadashah, prophets of New Testament.
Yep. Still got a prophets and New Testament portion. So
Which will be Hosea 12. But before we get there, I want to see if there's anything else we want to talk about on 28 through 32:3.
yeah,
Come on in, Jamie, if you
definitely
want to come back.
interesting. Laban had idols, and then Rachel was the one that stole the idols. Seemed like God had to put the fear into Laban, but at least he listened.
That's for sure.
Takes me back to the Red Tent movie.
I know, because it's so dramatic, this scene.
Yeah.
Um,
20 years.
I think we need to take Brian's tent down there at the river and paint it red. Send the ladies down there.
Man. Serving somebody
listening.
20 years and they still want to be shiesty with you. Can you imagine? It happens all the time. I'm sure there's plenty of people that have worked 20 years for somebody and had this problem.
And his pay changed 10 times. I mean, and I assume that wasn't a good change. That was a bad thing.
Yeah. I don't think that change was a raise. Yeah, Joseph had to take all the burdens. Any of the flock that died was his fault, whether it was day or night. And then, yeah, a slaughtering with bread on the mountain.
Oh, yeah, there at the end.
Yeah. They definitely knew some sacrifices. But
next week
he's got to go back and meet up with his brother Esau from last week that we know wanted to kill him, so...
And then next week's Torah portion is when Jacob wrestles with the angel or a god or whatever in a place called Peniel. So that's interesting.
Yeah. JT says that hilarious that she stole his idols and hid them under the saddle, saying she couldn't get up because she was on her monthly. And then the dude still had the nerve to say that his daughters were his after he had already sold them both. Like...
Wow.
Yeah, definitely some shiesty stuff. I know Kaylee's got something for us, but she's probably busy.
Doing her makeup.
She's gonna hurt you.
No, I'm wrapping a gift. But I do have a
Sure.
lot to say, but I don't have a lot to back it up right now because I don't have the time to.
You don't
to
have
look
to
it all
source
up.
it.
But in the book of Jasher, it says that she stole the household idols because they were used for divination purposes. And so Laban shows that he was a worshiper of little g gods. And somehow it even says, I wasn't able to follow along word for word, but it says something about divining, I think, in there. And so there's other places inside the scriptures too that talk about the teraphim, and teraphims, if you look into it, like in the Jewish encyclopedia.com, it talks about how they were like human heads that were salted, and they would put these bars through the mouth. And supposedly these human heads that were used, I'm sure they were acquired from human sacrifice. And they would take these human heads and they would salt them, and then possibly even shrinking them down, and then they were used for divination. Like, so somehow, some way, maybe an entity or a spiritual being was able to talk and communicate through these heads. So there's a possibility that the things that she stole, it wasn't because she wanted to keep on to the idols. Because if you look at the history of Jacob, he was a righteous man, and he loved Rachel, and I highly doubt she was out worshiping other gods. So I think if the account in Jasher is correct, I think she was taking them for the purpose of preventing her dad from divining where they were headed. So she was doing it, in my mind, as a way to protect her and her family.
Interesting. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They're definitely small idols because she hit him in the camel saddle that she was sitting on. So they're not like super huge. Like
Yeah,
three foot
that's
tall
why.
or something like that. But
That's why it's a possibility that they were shrunken. I mean,
right,
it's just
yeah,
an
yeah.
idea.
Like little voodoo shrunken heads.
Would you say Hosea 12 was
Yep.
the next part?
Hosea 12, verse 13, and then going through 14:10.
Okay.
Hosea 12:13. Oh. Okay. Moving on. Hosea 12:13. And by a prophet, Yahuwah brought Yisrael out of Mitzrayim, and by a prophet he was watched over. Ephraim has provoked most bitterly, so his master left his blood guilt on him and repaid him for his reproach. When Ephraim spoke, there was trembling. He was lifted up in Yisrael, but through Baal he became guilty, and he died. And now they sin more and more, and make for themselves molded images from their silver, idols according to their skill, all of them the work of craftsmen. They say to them, let the man who slaughter kiss the calves. Therefore they shall be like a morning cloud, and like dew that goes away early, like chaff blown off from a threshing floor, and like smoke from a window. But I am Yahuwah, your Elohim, since the land of Mitzrayim, and an Elohim besides me you shall not know, for there is no Savior besides me. I knew you in the wilderness, and in the land of drought. When they were fed, they were satisfied. They were satisfied, and their heart was exalted. Therefore they forget me. So I became like a lion to them, like a leopard. I watch by the way. Like a bear robbed of her young, I attack them and rip open the enclosure of their heart. And there I devour them like a lion, a wild beast, tear them apart. You have destroyed yourself, O Israel, but your help is in me. Where is your sovereign, now to save you in all your cities, and your rulers of whom you said, give me a sovereign and rulers? I gave you a sovereign in my displeasure, but I took him away in my wrath. The crookedness of Ephraim is bound up, his sin is hidden. Pains of a woman in labor shall come upon him. He is not a wise son, for it is not the time that he should delay at the breaking forth of children. From the power of Sheol I ransom them, from death I redeem them. Where is your plague, O death? Where is your destruction, O Sheol? Repentance is hidden from my eyes. Though he bears fruit among his brothers, an east wind comes. A wind coming from Yahuwah comes up from the wilderness, and it dries up his fountain, and his spring becomes dry. It plunders a treasure of all desirable objects. Shomeron is held guilty, for she has rebelled against her Elohim. They fall by the sword, their infants are dashed in pieces, and their pregnant women ripped open. O Yisrael, return to Yahuwah your Elohim, for you have stumbled by your crookedness. Take words with you, and return to Yahuwah. Say to him, take away all crookedness, and accept what is good, and we render the bulls of our lips. Asher does not save us. We do not ride on horses, nor ever again do we say to the work of our hands, our mighty ones, for the fatherless find compassion in you. I shall heal their backsliding. I shall love them spontaneously, for my displeasure has turned away from him. I shall be like the dew to Yisrael. He shall blossom like the lily, and strike out his roots like Lebanon. His branches shall spread, and his splendor shall be like an olive tree, and his fragrance like Lebanon. Those who dwell under his shadow shall return. They shall revive like grain, and blossom like the vine, and become as fragrant as the wine of Lebanon. What more has Ephraim to do with idols? It is I who answer and look after him. I am like a green cypress tree. Your fruit comes from me. Who is wise and understands these words, discerning and knows them? For the ways of Yahuwah are straight, and the righteous walk in them, but the transgressors stumble in them. I like this. This makes me think of his branches, all like an olive. This is talking about those grafted in from, Gentiles grafted in.
Mm-hmm.
Those who dwell under the shadow shall return. They shall revive like grain and blossom like the vine and become as fragrant as the wine of Lebanon. Of course, I don't know how good that is. I just assume that's a really good thing. I need you to whip me up some wine of Lebanon.
Well, it doesn't say the wine's good. It just says the fragrance of the wine is good.
Oh,
So maybe it
touche.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't taste good. Maybe it's just the smell that's really really good.
Well, I've never had wine that smelt good and tasted bad, so there's that.
Right. Uh, I knew you'd love my sarcasm. But
His
yeah,
branches
the book of
shall
Hosea is
spread. Yeah.
the book of Hosea is definitely all about Ephraim getting sent out into the nations and mixing with the Gentiles.
Coming
So,
back.
yeah, it would not be hard at all to make a case that this is the fullness of the Gentiles.
Hey, and it says 14:10 here on this Hebrew for Christians parasha, and it stopped at verse 9. Well, I went over to the Septuagint, and we've got one more verse.
Oh.
Oh wait, well, I don't know. It's maybe the same thing
Yeah,
as verse 9, and maybe they just combined them.
What was it, 14:10?
Yes. And the Britain here says, "Who is
Yeah, it's
wise and
just a
will
verse
understand
off.
these things?" Yeah. So what do they do? Combine here or something? I don't know. Never mind.
I don't go back down. I'll look. I'll compare it.
Gotcha.
Who is wise and understands these words, discerning and knows them? For the ways of Yahuwah are straight, and the righteous walk in them, but the transgressors stumble in them. So yeah, they may have just combined a verse somewhere.
Transgressors of what, JD, is what you need to answer.
Well, in Hosea, we can be pretty sure it's the Torah. I mean, you would think.
Hmm.
All the prophets said the same thing. Considering wisdom and understanding, righteousness, straightness,
Hmm.
godliness, all of those things are defined by the Torah. So,
Like 119 Psalms to tell you
right?
all of those things. What's truth? What's righteous? Anybody in the chat or Kaylee, do you have anything to comment on what we read here in Hosea?
Guess that's it.
All right. The next Brit Hadashah is John 1:19 through 51. The testimony of John the Baptist. Interesting. Now, this was the witness of Johanan,
Yahuchanan
John,
the Immerser.
right? When the Yehudim, now this is the witness of John when the Yehudim sent from Jerusalem priests and Levites to ask him, "Who are you?" And he confessed and did not deny, but confessed, "I am not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then are you, Eliyahu?" So he said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" And he answered, "No." Therefore they said to him, "Who are you? So that we give an answer to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself?" He said, "I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of Yahuwah, as the prophet Yeshayahu said." And I'm just going to go ahead and read that while we're here. Isaiah 43, or Isaiah 40, verse 3. The voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of Yahuwah, make straight in the desert a highway for our Elohim. And those sent were of the Pharisees. And they asked him, saying, "What then do you immerse if you are not the Messiah, nor Eliyahu, nor the prophet?" John answered them, saying, "I immerse in water, but in your midst stands one whom you do not know, the one coming after me, who has become before me, whose sandal strap I am not worthy to loosen." This took place in Beth Anya, beyond the Jordan, where Johanan was immersing. On the next day, Johanan saw Yeshua coming toward him and said, "See the Lamb of Elohim who takes away the sin of the world? This is he of whom I said, 'After me comes a man who has become before me, for he was before me.' I did not know him, but that he might be revealed to Yisrael, therefore I came immersing in water." And John bore witness, saying, "I have seen the Spirit coming down from heaven like a dove and remain on him. And I did not know him, but he who sent me to immerse in water said to me, 'Upon whom you see the Spirit coming down and remaining on him, this is he who immerses in the set apart Spirit.' And I have seen and have witnessed that this is the Son of Elohim." Again, the following day, John was standing with two of his taught ones, and looking at Yeshua walking, he said, "See, the Lamb of Elohim." And the two taught ones heard him speaking, and they followed Yeshua. And Yeshua, turning and seeing them following, said to them, "What do you seek?" And they said to him, "Rabbi, where are you staying?" And he said to them, "Come and see." They went and saw where he was staying, and remained with him that day. Now it was about the 10th hour. Andri, the brother of Shimon Kepha, was one of the two who heard from John and followed him. First he found his own brother Shimon and said to him, "We have found Messiah." And he brought him to Yeshua. And looking at him, Yeshua said, "You are Shimon, the son of Jonah. You shall be called Kepha, which means a stone." On the following day, Yeshua wished to go to Galilee, and he found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." and Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andri and Kepha. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him whom Moshe wrote of in the Torah and the prophets, Yeshua of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." And Nathanael said to him, "Is it possible for any good matter to come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." Yeshua saw Nathanael coming toward him and said to him, "See, truly a Yisraeli, in whom is no deceit." Nathanael said to him, "From where do you know me?" Yeshua answered and said to him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Nathanael answered and said to him, "Rabbi, you are the son of Elohim. You are the sovereign of Israel." Yeshua answered and said to him, "Because I have said to you, I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? Greater that, greater than that you shall see." And he said to him, "Truly, truly, I say to you, from now on you shall see the heaven opening, and the messengers of Elohim ascending and descending upon the son of Adam." And that's the end of the Brit Hadashah portion of the Parasha Vayetzei. So, I guess a big question that's talked about a lot is John the Baptist. Is he one of the witnesses? The two witnesses.
That's a good question.
He says he's
Definitely.
not.
What do you mean?
He says they asked him if he was Eliyahu, and he said no. I mean, let me pull that back here. They asked him, "What then? Are you Eliyahu?" And he said, "I am not." And that's John 1:21 here.
All right, that is interesting.
So I don't know. One
Who's
one thought is
asking?
that
Hmm. It was the priest and Levites who asked him.
yeah,
It doesn't give us any information. Like if they were the Sadducees, I would understand it more maybe because they were the ones that didn't believe in the resurrection.
hmm
But yeah, I'm not sure why he answers no, but then Jesus says that he is.
exactly. So does he not know that he is, or is he denying it there in front of these guys so he doesn't get like taken away and sawed in half?
Right? That's a good point. I don't know. It's a good question. I'd never even
Anything
pondered that
else?
before. Those things you can read over and over and just miss it every single time. Because everyone just
Yep.
assumes that he is.
But he says he's not. So not saying that he is or isn't, but it's interesting that he says he is not. And my guess is if he was lying, it was just to, like again, save him like from get cut in half. Wasn't it Isaiah that was cut in half, sewn in twain?
I don't remember. I think John the Baptist was beheaded though for
hmm
Herod, and his head was on the silver platter. Hmm. Yeah, and then I think it I think it was Leonard Ravenhill that said that John the Baptist spent 40 years in the wilderness so he could preach for 6 months before he got beheaded.
Right? I like that. That was Leonard Ravenhill. It was a very powerful sermon, that particular one you're referencing.
Yep, yep.
Because when he
Definitely.
quotes back, he says, "I am the voice crying in the wilderness." I was going to bring that back to Isaiah 43, but go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead. Kaylee dropped out, so it's probably just me and you.
Gotcha. No biggie.
Yep.
Yeah, if anybody else is there in the chat out there in YouTube land want to jump in and chat and midrash with us, that's fine with me. We're just here hanging, chilling. We're pretty much concluded our Torah portion studies, so now we're just having some fun.
Yeah, JT, Jamie, Cherry, if you want to join in, by all means. It's still pinned up there.
Isaiah 40, and this is John quoting, I'm the voice in the wilderness from Isaiah. Comfort, comfort my people, says your Elohim. Speak to the heart of Jerusalem and cry out to her that her hard service is completed, that her crookedness is pardoned, that she has received from the hand of Yahuwah double for all her sins. The voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of Yahuwah, make straight in the desert a highway for our Elohim. Let every valley be raised, and every mountain and hill made low, and the steep ground shall become level, and the rough places smooth. And the steam of Yahuwah shall be revealed, and all flesh together shall see it, for the mouth of Yahuwah has spoken. Oh, I'm going to keep going because this is really good stuff. The voice said, cry out. And he said, what do I cry? All flesh is grass, and all its loving commitment is like the flower of the field. Grass shall wither, the flower shall fade. When the spirit of Yahuwah has blown on it, truly the people is grass. Grass shall wither, the flower shall fade, but the word of our Elohim stands forever. Forever, forever. So,
Welcome, Jamie. Some friends from around, like in real life friends, and he's gone.
see you later, dude.
All right.
The voice of the one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of Yahuwah. So, who is the voice of the one crying in the wilderness? Let's dig in a little bit on that.
I need. You couldn't hear anything. That's weird.
And interesting. And in those days, John the Immerser came proclaiming in the wilderness of Yehuda and saying, repent, for the reign of heavens has come. For this is he who was spoken of by the prophet Yeshayahu, saying, voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of Yahuwah, make his path straight. So, very interesting here that he's the one, according to Matthew, who is the voice in the wilderness, who is John the Immerser, but I don't see anything about him, being named, Elijah. So
I was a little unclear on what you meant when you were in first or in the John 1 there. It seems like, isn't it saying that John, they were asking John if he was the Messiah, and he was saying no, and because that was like a messianic title, but then the Elijah thing is like the one crying in the wilderness who's like the forerunner of Christ sort of thing. And then people were, it seems like throughout the narrative, people are confused about, the difference between the two. But with John, I was unclear about what you were exactly saying there. Like, did you sound like you were saying they were asking Jesus, and he said he wasn't the Messiah?
but then they asked him if he was Eliyahu or Elijah, and then he said, no, I'm not Elijah. And then some reference him as, John the Baptist as being one of the two witnesses. And that's just kind of my logic and my testing, if that makes more sense.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying, why, you're kind of asking the question, why didn't John say he was that figure of Elijah, right? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. If he was,
right.
and I'm not saying that he is or isn't, just, he said he wasn't, and that's kind of my focal point on it. And
Yeah, that is a good question. I misunderstood. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh, no,
maybe
you're good.
Maybe the intention of the text is saying like literally Elijah or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because, it seems like they're calling out Elijah the prophet from Malachi 4, or it would be Malachi 3 in the Jewish Bible, but anyways,
Right.
And then
Do you guys
he's
take that
taking it
type,
back
right?
to Isaiah rather than Malachi, so it is interesting.
What's that, Jamie?
Oh, yeah, it would be hard to kind of convey in the text maybe, or gets lost in translation or something. But maybe it seems like, just like today, I think people can be confused. Like is Elijah literally going to come back, or is this just like a type of like the message? The Elijah, I think, is how, with the definite article, like in the Old Testament and the different places in the Torah that are mention this and kind of give you a clue that there's like this position or whatever of the one. I would say John the Baptist is the Elijah, if as it were, not like literally Elijah, or like that necessarily literally Elijah has to come back, although that's possible. I
And
just
we
think
can
it's
maybe coin it as like the spirit of Elijah in John the Baptist. I don't know. It's just a
yeah,
Well,
thought.
yeah, I
no,
mean, Jesus calls him Elijah,
Uh-huh.
so yeah, no disagreements there. But yeah, it is confusing that they had to ask him, basically three questions. Are you the Messiah? Are you Elijah? Are you the
Are you the
prophet?
prophet?
But like Elijah was a prophet, the Messiah is also a prophet. So I don't know. I don't know why the third question had to be asked. I don't
yeah,
know.
isn't the prophet the Messiah, and then the Elijah is the forerunner? I would want to say those two title of the prophet and Messiah, or the son of the blessed one or something, is the Messiah, and then the Elijah would be associated with his coming. And so, yeah, the third question may be an indicator that they were confused about how to parse all that out, perhaps. Who knows?
Yeah, it does seem redundant, though. I see what you're saying, Deezer.
Yeah. Needless to say, the priest and the Levites were very confused as to what was going on here, as we all are.
Well, what do they say when he's on the cross? If he be the Elijah, then come down. And it's like, well, that's not quite,
Do they
maybe
say
as far as
Elijah
I
or do
understand.
they just say the prophet or the Messiah? I'd
I
have to
forget
look at
now.
it again.
Maybe I'm confused. I'm not sure, but it seems like they say that, and it's like, wait, he's not the Elijah. He's the prophet or something. I mean,
Is that the one in Luke? I'm curious now.
that might be an. If I'm right there, that could help to bolster this idea that the suggestion or idea is that they're kind of confused on how to parse all of it out. But I could be wrong. I may need to be parceled out or whatever.
That's okay. I don't have to go back. I'm not sure exactly where it is, so I'm just fishing at this point.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Oh, look out. Jesus is working on the Sabbath.
I see you're watching my screen.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, I don't know even where it's at, so I give up.
Well, hopefully we prompted some peoples to read their Bibles today. Get in the
Right.
Word and do some studying.
I always enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't do it
I'm
enough.
glad y'all showed up. Everybody in the YouTube chat and everybody that's actually here. Definitely appreciate you stopping by, Jamie.
Yeah, feel free to jump in the Torah portions with us too and get in on the discussion. No problem with that whatsoever.
Jamie's got a passion for Daniel 9.
Oh yeah, my interest is piqued.
Right? I figured that'd be all I'd have to say, and then he'd be going
Setting
off
the
for like
stage here.
like the next half hour. Like we just have a nice little presentation. But oh, he ran away from the keyboard for a minute.
Yeah, no worries.
Loving that song. Doing a good job with it.
Thanks, buddy.
What's Daniel 9?
It's a very
You want to share?
yeah. Gonna say I can just put up mine.
I want to take my headphones off and get comfy here and switch to my normal computer speakers and everything. Be right back.
Okay. It's a kind of a controversial subject, I guess. A lot of people take it different ways and build all sorts of different doctrines off of it. Jamie's going off in chat. Everything is awesome about Daniel 9. Yeah. I don't remember where he lives, but he's got a lot of snow. Like, he got like 10 or 12 inches the other day. He's got one of those like snowblower machines to clean out the driveway. He did it like 3 or 4 times in one day. Had that much snow. And then I think he's remodeling his parents' house, so his parents are living with him while they're remodeling. So he may be doing something with that. Otherwise, I thought for sure he'd be back and talking about Daniel 9. But basically, Daniel is reading the book of Jeremiah. Well, not necessarily a book, but the scrolls of Jeremiah. And has figured out that their 70 years in Babylon are coming to an end. And then he gives him this vision for an additional 70 weeks to do all of this stuff, make an end of sins and seal up, cover crookedness, bring in everlasting righteousness, seal up the vision, and anoint the most holy. And then whenever you get to verse 7, and he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, and in the middle of the week he shall put an end to the slaughtering and meal offering, and on the wing of abominations he shall lay waste, even until the complete end, and that which is decreed is poured out on the one who lays waste, or on the desolate, depending on which your translation is. But anyway, verse 26 is talking about the Messiah. And then people read this, and the people of a coming prince shall destroy the city and the set apart place. And they're like, oh, the Romans destroyed the temple, so the coming prince and the people must be the Romans. And then they try and make 927 about the Antichrist and a 7-year tribulation and a peace treaty. And it's in Jamie's view, this is not the anti-Messiah down here. This is the Messiah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he does die in the middle of the week. He does confer a covenant with many. And then he does put an end to the slaughtering and meal offering, or morning and evening, or whatever this word is here. I can't remember. The sacrifice.
I'm back.
Zabak. I'll let Jamie take over.
Now it's interesting. I was just studying I asked a scholar, David Falk, on his channel when he was streaming what his interpretation was. Now, the question is, when it says he'll put an end to the, that's a good, so that's an interesting translation. I like that. The meal offering. So they this translation here that you have on the screen puts it in the English meal offering, which is, the cereal offering or the grain offering. If you look up that, I forget what word it is. It's like, I forget, Mishnah or something like that. It's associated with the cereal offerings or the grain offerings. And so what that might have a connotation of is like he, the first fruits sort of thing idea. Now, like saying he is the fullness of that. So as in he's the telos of that, pointing to him, to the Messiah, who, the book of Hebrews says is the once for all sacrifice or whatever. So I think that's clear in Paul's writing. So that would be the idea, like that he Yeah, he confirms the covenant. And like you could refer to like Romans 5, I think it's Romans 12, and there's many. Let me see, I'll pull it up and I'll shut up for a minute. But I would say, depending on the decree date, and you consider the Jubilee and Shemitah years from 457, then you put his baptism at 27 AD, that would be the beginning of the 70th week. And then he confirms the Jeremiah 31 slash, that's what it seems to be quoting in Hebrews anyway. So yeah, that's basically it. He would be the question is that the intention of the meal offering being taken out of the way or whatever, or putting it to an end? Because Jesus does predict the temple will be destroyed in Matthew 24. And so that's my position on that. So
Yep, no disagreements with that.
and so in a way he's like confirming, he seems to like understand that they're not going to accept him right before he's killed, but before that he doesn't necessarily speak that way. I always point this out, that when they're ripping people off for the sacrifices at the temple, he says, "You've made my father's house a den of thieves." So he speaks fondly of the temple, and then right before they go to kill him, he says they didn't recognize the time of their visitation. "I leave to you your house, not my father's house," he says all of a sudden. I find that interesting. That may be reading into it too much if I step back and just try to be unbiased about it. But he does refer to the house right before they're going to kill him as if to say, like, you didn't accept me, therefore the temple's going to be destroyed. And then, of course, we see that him teaching in Matthew 24 that when they see the Roman army surrounding the Holy Land or whatever, or the holy place, to flee to the mountains. And of course, they end up doing that in history. We know that's true. So he seemed to know that the temple is going to be destroyed and that he would be sacrificed for their sins, sort of thing. Which gets kind of sketchy when you try to like parse that out. Like, did God determine that they kill him? Or like, should we think of it more like they could have accepted him as Messiah, the leadership, and then maybe he wouldn't have had to die? That gets sketchy. It's hard to know how to think about that. Did God forcefully intervene to make them not believe? I don't think that's the case, to be honest, because Jesus seems to condemn them for not believing. And I don't think Jesus would condemn them for something they had no ability to choose or whatever. So that's
Yeah,
my
I'm sure they had enough pride. He didn't really have to do anything.
yeah. So then the question is like, well, did God kill Jesus? And it's like, well, it's like he knew what it was going to happen or what it was going to take. And so I that's how I kind of think of it, I guess.
Well, the lamb slain before the foundation of the world. I'd say they knew what the plan was the whole time.
Oh yeah, you got the cross references right there. So yeah, like Galatians 3, Romans 15, Romans 5 seem to suggest to me anyway that we should see Daniel 27 as Jesus confirming the covenant.
Yeah, it's uh, and the TSK cross reference. It's been around for a while, and I'm pretty positive that it's just a Christian thing. Like I don't think it was like a Hebrew roots thing or anything like that. So
Yeah, all the Protestant
yeah,
reformers anyways also believe this was Jesus, and these would use these quotes if you look at their commentaries. So it's very interesting that it's very much the quote unquote Christian, all the Christians seem to have abandoned this idea. I see it as like, although very corrupted, the church was being called out of Babylon, and it's a process historically, and we're going to see that movement till the end. Of course, there's going to be tension there, but that the true believers are going to, Zechariah 8 sort of thing, take hold of the hem of the garment and say, our fathers have taught us lies. Teach us about God's law.
yup. You're gonna be happy to see some Jews.
Preach it.
So that's like, I think I want to like, I want to be like, I feel like where I'm coming from is like kind of a little bit in between, greater Christian community and I identify more with like Hebrew roots people than I do with evangelicals, but I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Maybe if you want to like think about it, and so I think there's potential to go in the ditch on either side, and it exists in my kind of tradition. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, just so you know, but I think that it's a balance for everyone, no matter what. I mean, people who say the law's done away with are just in the ditch, like bleeding
Oh
to
yeah,
death.
yeah. You've got Christianity on one side and Judaism on the other. You either throw away the law or you throw away the Messiah. It's that narrow
Yeah,
path in
that's the
between.
ditch on both sides.
Yep, that's the ditch. And so yeah, it's just that narrow path in between. But if you say both, then you get people that are like, oh, works-based salvation heretics, and then they throw stones at you like a Pharisee. I don't know. I love
Yeah,
Jamie's sarcasm too. He gets talking about OSAS and spaghetti sauce and limp noodles, and it's like the perfect analogy, you know. Spaghetti noodles get lukewarm really quick. Um, they're weak. They break easily. I don't know. It's a
they
perfect.
flap in the wind, like a flap loosely in the wind, begging for. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to deal with too, because people like. I think I offend people all the time, but I don't really care. I guess at the end of the day, honestly, like I do care, but I'm trying to like get people to think. So like sometimes I want it to just be over the top, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes it needs to be, you know. I agree. Like, people need to think, and they just somehow stop thinking whenever they read their Bibles sometimes.
yeah, it's really gross how the like and I'm susceptible to this too, because I hang out with some people that I like have a totally different understanding of scripture, like that are like these dispensationalists. That's essentially like is what's scary is it's a totally different gospel, right? Like they think if you think the law's obedience is part of the gospel, then you're essentially preaching a false gospel. And but they make some points, so I think it's valuable to like to interact with them. And but on the other hand, it's like really scary too what they're actually saying. But I think it has to come to the forefront, and people need to just like it's like they kind of waver. They'll say so. There's people in so many. Most people are in between, but so these hyper dispensationalists, their message is rather clear as far as their understanding of the gospel, but I think it's completely wrong and not the gospel. And so it's like, and that's just being real. It's not being like getting all offended or something. It's just, but people need to realize like they're kind of floating. And people could say this about me too, in a sense, depending on your position, but they're like floating in between. So they, if I talk to them, they'll be like saying I'm works-based salvation. But if they talk to these other people, they'll say they're too lax with it. And so everybody just needs to get real with that whole, are they just condemning those who seem like they're more into sin than they are, and then saying anybody who sins less than them is, works-based salvation. And it makes everybody into hypocrites is what it does.
Right.
And I mean that to say
Amen.
myself too, and so we got to be careful here. We got to have compassion and understanding and charity, yet speak the truth.
Yup. And it's it, I think the example that we are shown is that the common people Jesus treated fairly well because they weren't the people in charge. They weren't the ones in charge of knowledge and teaching people. So it wasn't necessarily their fault that they didn't know. But the people in leadership, he was not very kind to. He was very blunt. He didn't care about offending them. He said what he said, and he honestly, it kind of seems like he was trying to offend them. Uh, just to, like you said, get them to think. So, if it bothers me when people get up in a public space and they preach something that's 100% wrong, and then they get mad whenever you call them out on it. You can't have it both ways. Sorry. And whenever
It's
you,
difficult to know how to treat these people too, right? Because they really aren't teachers, but they're presenting themselves as teachers. And then they'll
yeah,
like
That's a fact.
backhand you and slander you with things that aren't true to try to like, you know, essentially destroys people's ability to think for themselves. They just want to like paint you a certain way and then to throw you under the bus so that people won't listen to you. So they're like playing that game
Right.
and
But see,
without taking.
I'm the kind of person that whenever I see that happen, it automatically makes me want to go check out and listen to whoever it is that they're, like putting down. Because whenever I see something like that, that just means, oh, I'm scared of what that person is saying. I need to get them to shut up and get people to, not take this person seriously, or I'm going to be the one that's found out to be a fool. Like, I don't know. That's how I see it anyway. So, whenever I see somebody getting made fun of or, muted or whatever, I actually prefer to go listen to that person because it's, you know, lion aren't really worried about what sheep say. You know what I mean? Like, if they're bothered by what someone's saying, it's probably because it's true.
Did you guys? I played a clip last night of this guy. It's gone around. I saw that a bunch of people have responded to this. This guy, I think his name, I forget his name. Shoot, he's very over the top, like kind of Pentecostal type, real intense.
Oh, the guy
preacher.
saying that the Sabbath keepers were following doctrines of demons?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, David Wilbur did a rebuttal to his video, and then I want to say the guy got angry about it. I'd have to find it on Facebook to actually read what happened, but yeah. Um,
Is that that kind of small guy? I've seen him on like I've seen him do. I mean, I've
Yeah,
seen him
small
do
guy with
presentations with
glasses.
Jim Staley. I've seen him
Yeah.
on Jim Staley a long time ago, and I've seen
Yep.
him.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
really
he's good.
surprised how many Hebrew root people you knew. You mentioned Zach's channel the other day.
Oh yeah, dude. I know so many, like in every group. Like I listen to everything, man. I listen to all the different. I mean, not all of them, but you know what I mean. I'm very familiar with Lex Friedman, or what's his name? Not Lex Friedman, but Lex.
Lex
The guy
Meyer.
from Unlearn the Lies, 119 Ministries. I like Zach Bauer. I like I can't think of his name. He's been around for a long time. New to Torah, maybe it's called that channel.
That's Zachary Bauer.
Okay, what? There's another one, Torah Life Ministries.
Yep. Yeah. Paul
That
Neeson.
guy. Yeah, he's got dark hair. He sounds like he's from maybe New York or New Jersey or something.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch the conference the other day, last Sunday, I think it was?
On
The
which
Great Commission?
I did not. I think
Okay.
maybe was that. I also watched Michael Rood. Was that something that he did too, or just on? Are you talking about Zachary?
No. Have you seen the Way documentary?
Parts of it.
Okay. It's the same people that put on The Way, only they just did a conference, but it was Lex, Zach, Steve Mutria from 119. They had Paul
Oh, cool.
Neeson,
Paul Neeson. That's who I was trying to think of.
Arthur Bailey. Anyway, they had like 6 or 8 Torah people, and they all had like a 20-minute pre-recorded slot for the Great Commission, broadly topic, and then they had a Q&A afterwards that was live. So they pre-recorded everybody's parts and then put them together in like a 2-hour presentation or a 3-hour presentation, and then they went to Q&A. But it was really good, super good.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch that because I like all those people. Do you think? What would you say the percentage of Torah groups, at least the vast majority of the popular ones, let's say like those guys in their ministries, etc. Do any of those groups that you mentioned or that are in that presentation believe differently than I do about hell? Do you know?
Well, how do you believe about
Not.
hell? So I understand.
You'd have to be more specific, I guess.
I guess I just believe in conditional immortality sort of thing, like where hell is like where you die and that's it. Like they're thrown into hell, but they die and they're dead.
So like, do do like the general consensus of Torah observant teachers teach if hell is eternal or not eternal? Is that
Well, I would say I'd like to make the distinction and say I believe hell's eternal. I think it's permanent. In other words, like you die and it's permanent. But
Touche.
yeah, it seems like most Torah agree with that version. But I've heard a few that maybe have a nuanced difference, or they like seems like most of them tend to understand that like we're not immortal unless we're redeemed or whatever however you want to say it, saved or however I don't.
So you're talking about like annihilationism versus eternal torment?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Versus actually like an eternal fire where you're tortured forever through eternity, you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, see, I don't have any problem with the fire burning forever or the smoke burning forever, but whenever it says that dry branches are going to get thrown into the fire, I have a problem with dry branches burning forever, because it doesn't work that way. Like dry branches.
It says they're left neither root nor branch. It says in like Psalms 37, it says like they're no more. You'll look for their place and you won't find it. It says there'll be ashes in your feet in Malachi 4, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm with you there. So
I mean, I get why people disagree, but I think when you look at all the ways the wicked are described at the end of the age, and you look at and you line them up and you go, what does this sound like? More like people are tortured forever, or that they're like utterly eliminated? And then I want to say the latter.
Right.
I think I would mostly agree. I'm just not 100% on either side of that yet. I haven't studied it out.
Yeah, I'm not positive either. I know Lex Meyer obviously has a view on it.
I think he agrees with me on that.
Yeah, I think Zachary Bauer would probably agree with you as well.
I had to guess, yes, he would probably agree, but I don't know.
And then Steve Mutria's one is he's got like a 2-part video on it that's called like Pharisees versus the Sadducees or something like that. But that may just be on the resurrection, but I can't remember if it's on the second death or not. But well,
if you're interested, I have a really good video.
I would assume that he is annihilationism too.
I feel like that video I did with Chris Date from Rethinking Hell, he's like a Calvinist, but I agree with him, of course, on this thing, and so we went through we did I had another gal on there too who's an evangelical, but she's very good on that subject. But we go through all the verses. He gives a presentation, she gives a presentation. CJ was on there. It's really long. People bring up all the verses that people usually bring up and go over it. So check it out if you're interested. But I'm not on here to promote my channel or anything.
Oh no, like you're a friend, Jamie. By all means, I'm not going against you at all. Like I definitely would love to watch it for sure. So yeah, don't think that you're not welcome here. You're more than welcome here, sir.
Yeah, I just think Chris Date is probably, he's pretty much made himself nobody wants to debate him. He just smashes anybody he debates. And so, and he came on and we had a long discussion and took audience questions. So it's just a good resource, I would argue.
Is he
disagreements?
Is he an annihilationist or eternal torment?
So he's a lead. He's my position is conditional mortality. Gotcha. I like that name because although he would say the state of the dead, that is the intermediate state or whatever, you don't have to believe in an unconscious intermediate state to be an annihilationist. I've always kind of looked at the two as going hand in hand, because of the nature of life and stuff. Like when you die, you're just not alive. Mm-hmm. But I understand why people might disagree with that. And he convinced me to not marry the two doctrines, because you can believe in annihilation and think you're alive after you die, or in the intermediate state that you're conscious or something. And that's fine. Yeah. And so I tend to agree with that, but I do think, but he actually believes like I do that dead people aren't alive, according to Ecclesiastes and Psalms 140. There's a bunch of reasons, but it is confusing. So, and there's kind of a history of both positions running from the first century on, and that was the majority view. It seems like that a lot of people spoke as though they were alive, but they may just be using the same language as Luke 16, the latter half, Lazarus and the rich man. So it's difficult, but the point is we wait. The hope is the resurrection and the return of the king. So that's how I like to say it.
Yep, for sure. Have you seen Rico Cortez from Wisdom and Torah Ministries?
I don't think so.
He's more of he studies the priesthood, so his channel's more focused on that sort of topics, and he's really really good. Like he was the one that I heard speak on the spot in the temple where you would make a sacrifice for sin and a free will offering were the exact same spot, so that the only person that knew that you were there for a sin was you, the priest, and God. You know, someone couldn't just look and say, "Oh, you know, they're over there where the sinners are."
Oh, interesting. He
Yeah.
probably thinks the Dome of the Rock thing is where the temple was then. Seems like
Uh,
that.
I'm not positive on that. He's just really good on all of the priestly laws and ordinances and like showing them in scripture and stuff like
I
that.
need to
He
study
probably
that
like I know he does have a view on where the temple is, but I don't know what it is.
because it says we're made priests and kings in Christ too, right? And that seems to kind of run through. But that's also kind of a theme in the Hebrew Bible too, or whatever you want to say it. But
Mm-hmm.
this idea that like already but not yet sort of thing, like is
Yeah.
our goal the Great Commission as priests and kings, and are we really priests and kings yet? Is it, or are we just like a kind of like we have eternal life now? Like what does that mean? We still die. So,
Right.
well,
Exactly.
I like to focus it on Messiah saying we're mortal, we still die. Jesus clears this up in John 11 or whatever. He's just like, look, I'm going to wake you up, and he is the eternal life, and it's in him. It's intrinsic in him, not in us. And if we have him, we're attached to that.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it too.
That makes me think of
The
dry
priesthood will be
bones.
after we wake up.
Ezekiel 37. Can you pull that up, Deezer?
Yeah.
Valley of Dry Bones. That's like my name here in the chat. You know, it's like the name of the movie in the movie.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm open on this, how to understand how we should think of what this is saying, because I've heard people say it's about the nation of political Israel. It's about just, I'm okay with that. I would just say it's more like you could say it's a spiritual awakening to God's, like to the
People.
law, to the Torah. You could say it has to do with the literal resurrection. I think it's kind of maybe all of them a little bit.
Ephraim, I think,
Yeah.
being woken up. And I literally think that's happening right now. Is kind of my view on this. So, I mean, you're familiar with it. We don't have to read through it. But
It's a
I,
great
I just
chapter.
love this because it talks about him putting his breath, and breathing back. And then, Ezekiel going out and prophesying as commanded and rising up an army to serve Yahweh. It's just amazing. I love this chapter here.
Are you saying he put the hay in Abraham, in the midst of Abraham? He put his spirit in him.
Yes, in short, yes. Like the name change. He puts that H, the breath sound, in their names, and it puts his spirit in them, which is, I think, what some Hebrews, they change their name when they come into Messiah or Torah, and make it more biblical. But I don't know. I'm not
Yeah,
doing
you could. I'm happy to have my name be Yah me. Like, go ahead, Yah. Give me the Yah.
that. Hmm. Me too.
That's just playing around with the name. But yeah, I mean, I think clearly the idea that God puts His Spirit in you. This is what Messiah does. This is what He does with Abraham. He put
Hmm.
him in. I would say Jesus. I like to look at it like, uh, Messiah comes in the middle of history, and like that's the ultimate putting the Spirit back into mankind sort of thing. And so
Hmm.
that's the focus. And in the middle of Abraham, and in passing through there's something with this in the middle of the week, in the midst of, and when he passes through the things with Abraham, when he falls asleep, all that stuff there's something going on there with this in the midst of, and the Spirit. I
Mm-hmm.
love it.
Nice. Nice commentary, bro.
Good stuff.
But yeah, I mean, I believe, he's reviving his people, putting his breath back in them, and awakening, this scattered tribe of people, And me personally, I believe that when you're grafted in, you're grafted into Israel, which is why I'm Torah observant. But that's my viewpoint, nonetheless. Um, but I shall make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Israel, and one sovereign shall be sovereign over them all, and let them no longer be two nations, and let them no longer be divided into two reigns. Bam. Case in
Yeah.
point.
And his intention all along was to call back all people. And I think the idea of the scattered tribes could I'm curious how you kind of look at that, because someone who's like a dispensationalist evangelical would be like, well, this is talking about Israel and the two houses of Israel, not the nations. And it's like, and that's true. But the question is, how is it being utilized in the fact that they're scattered abroad? And then if we like consider how
Yeah, like
genetics work, it's the idea is the
Israel
nation
was
God's.
literally scattered to every nation. So to bring Israel back means that you're going to have to go to every nation and start preaching. And so the Gentiles are going to look and be like, "Hey, where's that funny Jew going? Let me go see where he's going and follow him."
Yes, it's
And
not
so
like you have
yeah,
to be blood related in some like
Exactly.
exceptional way. It's just because we're all related to some degree, I think, at this point. And the
right.
idea is that whoever comes back is part of the tribes. In other words,
Exactly,
it's not
yeah.
like a literal thing, but it kind of is, right? It kind of just says anybody who comes, they were Israel all along. They were the elect all along, sort of thing.
Deezer, can you go back to Exodus 12 around the 48 range?
Yeah, I was actually getting ready to do that cuz yeah,
I
you can
love this because this is,
start
talks
at
about being
38
grafted
and you
in.
see the mixed multitude. But
Mhm.
then whenever you get to 48, oh, now they're Israel. No
And when a
longer no longer Gentiles.
and when a stranger sojourns with you, a mixed multitude, and shall perform the Passover to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and perform it, and he shall be as native of the land, but let no uncircumcised eat of it. There is one Torah for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns among you. So I believe that Jesus being our or Yeshua being our Passover lamb. So anyone that believes in Yeshua and his heart is circumcised, he is part of Israel. Is kind of my understanding on this to put it in a nice little package box.
Do you think somebody might read that and think it says there's one Torah for the native born, that is for the Israelites, and
Hmm.
then and another one? It's saying one for all, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
it
how
does.
I would
It
say
it
it.
says one for all, yeah. Um, yeah, one Torah for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns with you. It's one Torah for all, and there's plenty of other verses.
Well, you guys should come to my stream I'm going to do in like 2 hours, because this came up when I was listening to you and listening to what other people were talking about. And I want to talk about the implications of. I have it listed as Jesus is God, but the idea is just that, like, I don't even care if you want to say it that way or not. The point is that Jesus is the one, the pre-incarnate Christ is the one who gave the commands and is creator. So the idea would just be like, what are the implications if you, because people talk about the law like it's for Israel, not for us, sort of thing. And it's like, dude, Jesus gave those things. Like those are his and his father's. Like
Hmm.
I think the implications, if you're evangelical, you're like, and you're really like, you have to believe Jesus is God, sort of thing. And it's fine. I believe that. But I don't flip out if people have a nuanced difference there. But the point is that he's one with that. He's not in opposition to the Old Testament laws, and so it's like the implication. Why do people make such a big deal about you have to believe Jesus is God, but then they turn around and make Jesus against the Old Testament,
Hmm.
and so it's like
Hmm.
so that's what I want to talk about. Like, what are the implications of Jesus being from heaven, so to speak, and so and and I want to talk about that. So yeah, you guys, if you want to come, that'd be cool. But
All
Oh,
right.
it
definitely.
usually draws in evangelicals when I say something about is Jesus God, because they're all about the Trinity and all that, right?
Don't threaten me with the good time, sir. I'll be there. But yeah, I mean, even Ezekiel goes on later to point out that, hey, later on, whenever the strangers do come in, they get to basically pick their tribe, and you're to treat them as if they are native born, and you are to give them an inheritance in the land. Like,
Can you pull up Ephesians chapter? Is it 2?
yeah, I was gonna say it's right here, like all the
Oh, yeah,
references.
gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yep. So then you are no longer strangers and foreigner, but a fellow citizen.
And a set apart ones and members of the household of Elohim. Bam.
Yeah.
I love it. You don't have to be part of Israel. You don't. It doesn't matter where you come from. Anywhere you come from, you can be grafted back in. And I think
Yep. You can be
that's the
grafted
gospel
into
itself.
Israel and partake in its covenants and blessings, and in that you
But
have the Messiah.
I want people to think I'm cool. I don't want to be peculiar.
Right? Yeah. Yep. Wild stuff.
I've had some, people that are all about Aquinas and are just Christians that are so-called scholars, leaders, pastors, and try to tell me that as they've matured as Christians, it's like, oh, they've learned that being holy doesn't matter that much and stuff like that. It's just like, whoa, scary
Yeah.
stuff.
Get away from me, Satan.
Well, Jesus did it all for me. I don't have to do anything. So you guys can just leave me alone. Nah. Ears are plugged.
uh,
You don't get it.
it's
God just
sad.
wants you to say my law is impossible and I'm trash. And then it's like, and then they tell you you're self-righteous, and I'm going, excuse me, you're like glorying in how evil you are, as if that makes you righteous, as if God's happy with that sort of thing. Like, you're missing the boat, brother.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's sad, man. Like, you gotta laugh or you'd cry. It's just wild. And mainly because people just don't know the scriptures. I mean, all all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 references, all tying into Romans 11 and Ephesians 2.
Can
But
you hurry this along and just tell me what I'm
doubtful,
supposed to believe,
doubtful
please?
anybody knows what that is.
Oh, but God knows my heart, so
Yeah, it's
Preach it, Mom.
just tell me what to say. I got sinning to do. Can we move this thing along here? Just tell me what to say. I got sins to commit here.
Just dip me in the ragu and let me go on. I thought it was so funny that you used ragu instead of prego. Got to get the watery version, not the thick stuff that would definitely stay on and really stain
Yeah,
well.
yeah. That's how I do. Evangelistic series. I go to Costco. I get a few cases of ragu, and I buy a kiddie pool. Then I invite people to come, and then send them on their way. And I notch my belt, and I saved a soul. And I drive around in my truck with a case full of dollar store KJV Bibles, and I turn up Jingle Bell Rock. I wait till school gets out, and I roll down the window, and I chuck KJV Bibles at them, and come get your blessing. I saved many souls that way. I mean, man.
Yeah, you had a pretty productive day yesterday.
I think I sent one kid home early. This is what I mean. I'm sorry. I'm just letting
I
you guys
love
know
it. Dustin probably gets it. I don't know that everybody does, but yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, I'm very facetious, super sarcastic. So,
Normally whenever I introduce Dustin, I tell people not to believe a single word that comes out of his mouth. So
unless I'm reading the Bible, then it's
yeah,
not my word.
unless he's reading the Bible. Otherwise, it's probably something super sarcastic.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
So you're doing a show on what was it again?
It's titled "Jesus is God. What
Oh
are the
yeah, yeah,
implications?"
yeah.
And of course, I always open it up to anybody of any persuasion. So
Right.
I'm trying to stay on topic more, but like I want to hear from anybody, because I think if somebody's wrong, it's an opportunity for people. If I'm wrong, or anybody, like to learn how to be humble and to hear what people are saying, and that's what I want to promote. Because
Right.
if someone's totally wrong, then someone ought to be there to correct them, and both parties be open to that, and then may the truth, may God be true and every man a liar.
Yes, sir.
So who is Jamie?
Jamie's just somebody I met on YouTube.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
you know, whenever you're Torah and you read other people's questions or comments, you can get a good idea of how it is that they think or what they think.
Right.
And then, yeah, watched his channel and yeah, just kind of joined in the chat and the discussions.
Ah, what's his channel?
Plug it.
Yeah, Jamie Russell, Christian Middle Earth.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say, give me a second, and I can link it for you.
So at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time is when you're going to be doing Jesus is God.
Yeah, about a little less than 2 hours, I think. So yeah,
Gotcha.
I always forget if I'm Pacific or not time because I live right on the border now because I moved from Seattle to the Panhandle of Idaho,
Mm.
and there's a time zone line really close to me to the east. So I always forget if I actually fall under it or not. So I think sounds like I'm 2 hours ahead of you
Okay.
or behind you. I guess it's 11 where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock here for us.
So yeah, 3 then it would be 3. Yeah, my usually my little symbol or whatever for my avatar on YouTube or my channel it's like a moon. It's like a moon in the night sky, and it says, I think it says Christian Middle Earth. It's just kind of one of the scholars I like makes that. I feel like I fall under that category, Christian Middle Earth. Of like Michael Heiser makes a comment about that, about people that are like really interested in the Bible, but they're not really scholars, but they get people interested in Scripture. So I kind of took that title and just kind of ran with it. And I feel like I'm in the middle on a lot of issues
Mm-hmm.
between the greater body of people who claim to love Jesus or Yeshua. I use both names, so, but I do identify more with, I would say, with you guys than I do with evangelicals. Although I have certain things that you might think sound, most Torah got people like that I've hung out with kind of think of me as more of a Christian, I guess, in a certain sense. But I'm all, well, you'll see if you go to my channel. Like I have a
You're
joke video
I
on
feel
there.
closer to you than most Christian brothers because, I mean, you believe the laws are eternal and you keep Sabbath. I don't know. I see you closer than further in my book.
Yeah, I think we should keep the food laws, and I think all that. I think, well, we can talk about it later in some other time.
We
On the
just
festival thing, I don't think
we
there's
gotta
anything wrong.
kidnap him next year for Sukkot. Next year for Sukkot, Jamie, where you're gonna disappear for like 9 days,
Yeah, that's cool.
but it's
Like
gonna be awesome.
I've like even growing up in the Seventh Day Adventist Church, like we would visit other, like I forget the guy's name. He did a lot on the blood moons. And he's a what's his name? Mark something.
I was gonna say John Hagee, but that's not it.
Not Hagee. No, no. This guy's actually keeps the feast and stuff like that. And like I remember our like cause we have like schools. They're called academies but we have like grade schools where you take Bible. They give Bible class every year and stuff. It's private schools, and we like went over to their church because some of their kids go to our schools or whatever because we're Sabbath keeping believers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember going over there and like, of course, our churches are usually like oftentimes, not always, not all of them, but are kind of stiff, like Protestant type church, in a lot of ways. But we went over there and they're like dancing and singing Jewish songs and stuff. And everybody like, some people were like, didn't know how to respond because they're not used to that sort of like, like celebration thing, which I think is totally the right way to do church or do worship.
Right, for sure. Yep, we had a good 350 people for Feast of Tabernacles Sukkot, and it was a lot of fun. Um, Most of us showed up a day early to set up, and then the last day is a high Sabbath, so we actually showed up a day early and left the day after. So
Cool.
yeah, it was what 9 or 10 days instead of 8, something like that. But
Yeah, we
So
stretched it out. It's my one of my vacations for work, so
Yeah.
I make use of it.
And yeah, staying up way too late at campfires. And let's put it this way, we were having so much fun that even though it got down to like 20 degrees, we were still up until like 4 in the morning.
Oh
You
yeah,
know what I
that's
mean? Like just hanging out around campfires, talking to people. I mean, honestly, I would take a gander that a good number of the teenagers that were there probably know more about scripture than most of the people that I encounter. I mean, it was
yeah.
wild, like
That's
if
usually how it is
yeah,
with people who believe the laws are still active.
yep,
I guess my position at the moment is, and I fluctuate because I'm trying to be like fair and not be closed minded. I feel like I guess is what my position is. If I just had to say it, I would say something like, I don't think, I certainly don't think it's wrong to observe the festivals, but I don't think God sees it as a sin if you don't. But I think if I had to guess, or in other words, but I I think that I can't help but think like actually celebrating them is a good thing in the sense that if not for any other reason, like people don't understand the purpose of them, what they were for, and the kind of meaning that comes out of understanding how Messiah, does things on those dates, and how it's associated with the plan of before he comes back. And like, so I can't say like they're done away with. I would just say the sacrifices are done away with in the sense that like Christ is the fullness of them, and then they're attached to that. But I think so. I would want to say I don't know that God would see it as a sin to not keep them. That's just like where I'm at with it. But I certainly can't say there's anything wrong with that. That's for sure. So I don't know. We could
I,
talk about this later sometime.
right.
But
Just my quick stance. I see us as part of Israel when we're grafted in. That's what we're grafted into. So when he says, "Speak to the children of Israel, tell them to do this," I define myself as Israel, so I do that. So that's kind of my quick 2 cent logic perspective from my stance.
and I appreciate that. I think that makes sense.
and you do a pretty good job of staying open-minded, Jamie. You'll at least listen to other people and consider it. So I do appreciate that. There's, you know,
Yeah, I certainly
some
agree with
people out
you
there
more.
are not as open to hearing things. That is for sure.
Yeah, I certainly would rather see people. Not that I know everything or think I have everything perfect per se, but like where I'm at with it, like I would certainly agree with people who keep the feast and understand the law the way they do. Then I would agree with people who see the festival keeping exactly like I do, but then of course if they see that, then they're going to see the law the way I do. But certainly the law is not done away with. It's just logic, bro. It's just like Jesus didn't sanctify your sin; he condemned sin.
Right.
And if you need a savior still after the cross, then sin exists and the law stands because that's what defines it. So
Yeah, if the law ended 2,000 years ago, how am I a sinner? Like, uh, the it's it's like they don't think their thought all the way through. They just say things and are like, there's no thinking about it. I'm not sure how to even put it into words, if that makes sense.
just I just wanted to tell you too, like I get all bent out of shape when people bring up like the Ellen White thing and all that. And part of what gets me floored about that is because is what's going on. Like, so I've spent like 2 years, like showing people that that I'm open and I'm trying to have charity and I'm honest. I didn't lie about
Dude,
my
it's
position.
it's literally just using ad hominems against you because
Yeah.
they can't argue against you. Like
Yeah.
they
And
don't,
that's
they
what
can't
makes me so
refute
mad.
you. They can't refute you with scripture, so they have to attack your prophet so that it makes you look bad, so that people won't listen to you instead
Yes, and
of
that's why
them.
I get so mad about it because it's like
Yeah,
you're trying to throw me under the bus and then shut off people from hearing. And I've invested a lot of time to show that I'm not that person that's just like being sneaky or sly. Like I've been open about my position. I've like built rapport with people. And when people do that, they're trying to shut it down. And I've spent a lot of time, and that really irritates me. That really makes me mad
Right,
because
yeah,
it's
no,
dishonest.
I don't know how long I've known you, but I mean, we've spent a good amount of time over the last couple of weeks, and I definitely didn't know until very recently how many people you knew in the Torah movement, which is very, very surprising. I mean, I bet 90% of the people we encounter that aren't already obedient would have trouble listening to them.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, I'm very impressed with the amount of research that you do. Never have I once seen you quote Ellen White to produce a doctrine. Every time that you discuss something, it's with scripture. So, even if you did look at an Ellen White teaching and then, find it in the Bible, if you can prove it with scripture, like, I don't care. Like, but I've never seen you be like, hey, here's what Ellen White says. Let's see if we can find it in the Bible. And then, like,
Yeah,
it's
that
just,
would be
it's completely
atrocious.
backwards the way that they go about it. And in my mind,
Yeah,
it does. It bothers me too. Like, you know, I I just it bothers me when people have to stoop to that level so that they look good to the audience so that they can save face because they just, they can't do anything with the scriptures. Their sword's so dull that they have to, basically bite you on the ankle.
and
It's just
they're
it's
actually
yeah.
like mature people have come to me with concerns about what Ellen White says and this and that, and I'm fine with that. But don't try to like with your like pseudo like they don't it's like they don't even actually come at it honestly. They just go to some site and like find some like quote mine or whatever, and it's like I'll put up with that for a while and I'll give answers as best I can or whatever. But it's like, but people who've come to me privately, like with actual legitimate concerns from their perspective, like like that's cool, man. Like
That's
I'll
genuine.
actually send you information, and I'll be honest and upfront about what the real issue is. Honestly, like because I've come to learn basically what the best issues are, if you're evangelical, like what the real issues are between the two differences. But when people like just try to throw it under the bus by like misapplying like quotes, famous quotes that people use to like, it's just like it's not coming at it honestly. Like they don't have any clue what she really said or meant. They just want to like make it look really bad. And it's like, the question they should be asking is, what are you really teaching and what are the differences? And when you come at it like that, I'll be happy to like go to the root of the issue. And it's like, what is justification by faith really look like? What does it really mean? I affirm justification by faith and righteousness by faith. And and I've studied it carefully in the early church, in the Protestant Reformation, in the Old Testament. And it's like, I'll tell you what the difference is, like the honest difference. But when you try to just come at it like you know better and you haven't honestly looked at it, I don't have a lot of time for you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah. Personally, I'd rather just, preach from scripture, and if there's something that doesn't match up with Ellen White, you'll be the one to know. Like, I don't, like, I'm sure,
Yes.
I am absolutely positive that you know Ellen White better than I probably ever will. Like, A, because I don't care, but B, because you have been in this SDA church for a long time. So I would rather just, talk about scripture, and if there's something that doesn't jive with what Ellen White says, you'll figure it out, man. I don't need to be the one that says, "Hey, Ellen White's wrong right here because of this, this, and this." Like,
Yeah. And
you'll
that's exactly
know.
why I'll be
You
the way
know
I
what I
feel.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
uh,
And so I think what she taught, and I mean, everybody has a background and like they're going to like kind of have come from that perspective. And so I want to be honest and face that head on. And I think everybody should too. But yeah, let's go to scripture. And like, I don't have to check with her before I say anything on the Bible. Like I'm going to take it from scripture and like, and yeah, and be open to that. Right. Obviously I'm going to be hesitant if it goes blatantly against something I was taught. Right. So I'm just being real honest about that. But like, my goal is to believe what scripture teaches, right? In most cases, I think most of the things that she pushed um, that people disagree with in evangelicals, I'm thoroughly convinced, like the core like issues, like regarding hell and regarding obedience and what repentance really is, like in the flow of history, it makes sense to think that she was used because those things are reforms that needed to happen in the church. You know, God does want us to keep Sabbath. God doesn't torture people forever, in my opinion. You know, and God, dead people aren't alive, and the sanctuary represents Christ's ministry in a bunch of ways. Although she didn't necessarily develop much of that, but that's kind of like the church or whatever did, the Adventist movement, let's say, and that Jesus is coming soon, and that we have to be ready for his return. So all those things are like, you know, different evangelicals agree with them here and there. They're not like anything brand new. I would say it's mostly going back to like core historical beliefs in the early church for the most part, you know?
Yup. Good stuff. I agree, man. It's really I hate it whenever it goes there because it's like, you know, we were having such a nice discussion and then somebody's got to, you know, wants to take it off in a left field and
Start
yeah,
taking jabs.
I'd rather just, you know, let's use the scripture and we'll see whose sword is sharper, you know? Like, yeah, it bothers me when people are disingenuous about that, and then they call themselves a Christian, and then they want to get up and talk about non-Christian things for like 2 or 3 hours, and they just want to bash people,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Do you guys like Corner Fringe Ministries?
I don't know
um,
who they are. I don't think.
I just got introduced to them, by someone at Feast of Tabernacles, and then I've only watched maybe 1 or 2 of their videos since I got back.
Yeah,
So,
I'm largely in agreement with them. I feel like I like what I guess you could say he's slightly more Christian, quote unquote, you know, sounds Christian, I guess you could say, but no, he's definitely Torah observant. I
yeah.
think keeps the feast and stuff. I really like their stuff. I've put his videos on my channel too, or promoted it or whatever. I like what he has to say, but yeah, cool.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was talking to at Sukkot that told me about it, but they had some interesting things to say. So I was like, yeah, I'll definitely check them out.
He has a great series on the Ten Commandments, especially the ones on the Sabbath. He really goes into a bunch of good stuff
Right,
on that.
yeah, I saw it was like 39 parts or something. I was like, oh my
Wow.
goodness, this is like Steve Berkinson or Berkson from
Yep.
MTOI. Like he's got like a 48 part one on grace or something like that, I think. He literally goes through and reads every single verse in scripture that has grace in it. And then
Nice, nice.
yeah. Um
I like
yeah.
his "Are You Saved" series too.
Yeah, his Are
And
You
that's
Saved
like
series is
the
really
whole
good.
idea of Christians call themselves saved, but I think his uh, in short is we're not saved yet. We've just been ransomed, if you will.
Yeah,
Paul says it over and over. Finish the race, keep
yep.
the faith, don't depart, endure to the end. You know, it's like, I love it when I should say I don't love it, but like, hey, Moses brought the law, but Jesus brought grace and truth. I'm just like, oh man, you don't even know what you're saying. Wait, what that means. Like, it
Right.
says grace upon grace. When he wrote that, he wasn't like, Moses brought this crappy law, but Jesus saved us from his father. You know, it's like, that's what they're thinking, you know?
I think
Yeah.
grace is more accurately translated as favor. It's because you are obedient, he finds favor to you and extends you, what we would define as grace.
Hey man,
Yeah.
you should walk across this bridge I have. It's really cool. It's a great bridge, man. I really believe in my bridge. I really trust in it. The guy says, okay, fine. Can you show me? Do you mind walking across it? No, no, I'm not gonna walk across that thing. But come on, man, believe in this bridge. It's just like, dude, walk ye therein.
But the
Nice.
loving commitment of Yahuwah is from everlasting to everlasting upon those who fear him, and his righteousness to children's children, to those who guard his covenant, and to those who remember his orders to do them. Who gets grace and
Wait,
mercy?
wait. Where did you get this? Workspacesalvation.com?
Yeah,
Oh wait,
yeah,
that's the Bible.
it, yeah.
Well, look at Daniel 9, like the third verse. I think it's like, oh Lord, those who blesses those who love him and keep his commandments. It's like, no, Jesus just wants you to admit you're trash and you can't keep his law because it's impossible. God gives an impossible law, even though Deuteronomy 30 exists, and then if you don't admit that, then he's going to burn you forever because he just wants you to admit you're trash, and he made you to be trash, and his law is impossible, just like Satan says, all that. That's the gospel, right? Sorry, I'm getting
We've got the beast of Daniel that intends to change appointed times and laws.
There you go, right there.
And then when we get to the New Testament, we've got these false witnesses that are set up against Stephen, and they say that Jesus is going to overthrow. Oh wow, that's not the greatest translation here. So Jesus is going to destroy this place and change the customs which Moses delivered. So if they had to get false witnesses to make this statement, then that means that this is not what was being preached, right? Like, this is a false statement. But Christians today quote this unknowingly, or they say this. They don't know that they're quoting it, but they say that, oh yeah, Jesus changed everything that Moses gave, and it's like, you're literally quoting a false witness, and you think that you're correct. It's mind-blowing.
That's amazing, yeah. Well, yeah. Jesus did say, don't do anything that they teach from Moses' seat. Oh, wait. He says, do what they teach from Moses' seat, right?
Right.
Just don't be hypocrites like they are. Oh,
yeah.
dear. Oh, dear.
Do as they say, not as they do, or something like that.
Exactly right. That's exactly what it says, what you just said. Do as they say, not as they do, because they're hypocrites. You have made the commandments of God and replaced them with the traditions of man.
Mm-hmm.
You hypocrites, you brood of vipers, you frauds, you whitewashed tombs full of dead men's bones. Whoa.
Yup. For they do all their works to be seen by men. And they got long zeet.
Well, Jesus is, so that is a warning for us, I think, to some degree, right? Like, we gotta have charity and love and all that. And I struggle with that sometimes.
Yeah, the weightier matters of the law.
And misuse the law, I think, in that sense, right? And just be looking at others and not ourselves, of course. So I want to be careful too, like, and not just think, thank God I'm not like one of them or whatever. But I think everybody's at risk of that. Even they are, like, they think they're good because, you end up turning yourself into the man pounding his chest if you're using that to beat people up. You think you're the guy that's beating his chest saying, thank God I'm not like one of them. You start getting evil with that, or rude or cruel or not charitable. And when you accuse people of that, you end up becoming that guy too. It's really kind of a catch-22 in that whole scenario there. I've been thinking about that lately, and I could be wrong in there, but.
No, I think everybody should keep that in mind.
Might help keep you in check.
Honestly, like, some of these people, like, half the time that they're talking, I'm like, man, if they could only hear themselves talk. Like, it sounds like they're preaching to themselves, but you know that they're not, because they're not listening. Yeah.
What do you make of this idea? Because this is something I've been thinking about. I want to get feedback, because, like, I think someone who's for the law does have to be careful. Thank God I'm not like one of them. Like, like, if I go too far off and we start just bashing them completely constantly, and it's like, I am kind of being the guy saying, thank God I'm not like one of these idiots. So, but then they use they love to use that verse against those who promote righteousness, and thinking that they can just dismiss what we're saying as though God didn't want us to obey the laws that he says are good for us. But then I was just thinking about that. I'm thinking, I think it's just like, it's not so much about the law, because God obviously isn't saying, I just want you to admit you can't do it. I mean, there's a weird way that's kind of true. Like, you need the atonement because you've messed up and stuff, but it doesn't mean therefore, like, the law is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so they're like, you can, even like, if you're a antinomian, it's the first application against people who are, like, overbearing with, like, obedience or whatever, however you want to say it. That seems to apply firstly to, the risk is for them, right? Being the guy saying, thank God I'm not like one of them. But, like, those are people that didn't believe in Messiah, presumably, like, and didn't understand that they need justification through the atonement. And, like, I think it puts anybody in check, though, because, like, you eventually become the man beating his chest saying, oh, I'm righteous because of Christ, and thank God I'm not like those other people who are So like it's a risk for everybody. So do you think that's kind of, you see that at all or no? If I may not have explained it well what I'm trying to say, but
I know I got it. Yeah, I think that is a good perspective to keep. But I'd also like to add that, if the law is what defines sin, and most Christians only think there's what, like, nine, maybe 11 laws. I don't know. Like if you get like the nine commandments and then the two greatest commandments and a couple of other things.
yeah, don't be gay too. I mean, that
Right,
matters too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We can eat pig, but don't be gay. Um,
Not saved by keeping the law, but if you're gay, you can't be saved.
right. So it it's interesting how they can have so few things that define what sin is, but then somehow they still think that they're this, wretched sinner, whereas somebody who knows the law knows what all of the sins are. So their perspective, so in their mind, or at least in my perspective, you would think of yourself as more of a sinner because you actually know what you're not doing. Whereas a Christian, it's just based on your feelings. So I don't know.
Yeah, I
Like,
have to remind people all the time. Don't, trust me, I know I'm a sinner. Trust me. You don't need to. You don't need to think I'm thinking I'm not a sinner.
oh no, no, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting
No,
that
I
to
mean that's
like
what I
the
tell them.
majority.
That's what I
Yeah,
tell them. Yeah, I feel you is what I'm saying. I'm with
yeah,
you.
um, yeah. So it's definitely for everyone to keep in perspective.
By the way,
And
I'm not gay. Everybody, I'm not gay.
uh, so yeah. And then like
Wait,
the Pharisees added to the laws, and then the Sadducees, I can't remember what they did. They didn't believe in the resurrection, so they were the like prosperity gospel today. Your best life now, kingdom, riches, glory, all that stuff. So it's it's kind of hard because we only really see like the Pharisaical side, but yeah. So they did have like two extremes on keeping the law. And because I want to say that the guy that owned the marketplace at the temple was a Sadducee, and so every time the feast would come, he would raise the rent on all the shopkeepers in the temple. So then the temple would, or the marketplace would have to raise the price on all the sacrifices. And so, he was basically just, oh, the summer season's here and all the people are here, so let's jack up the prices, so that we can make more money. And so, yeah, it definitely goes both ways.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never heard that. My whole point with the gay thing is they're being inconsistent with. Oh, it doesn't. You know, God doesn't care about sin at all, and you're saved by grace alone, and that means that just admit you're trash or whatever. But when it comes to gay, like if someone's gay, they're just like, you know, sons of hell. Like I personally think someone could be confused about their sexuality and still be saved and drawn to God. I don't think you can practice that lifestyle and be in right standing with God. I just think it's not a deal breaker. I think anybody can come to God depending on their circumstances. And so that's kind of my point. It's just they're inconsistent is what I meant by that.
Right. I think it'd definitely be a little bit more interesting if the New Testament talked about eating pork more. Like if it talked
Yeah.
about eating unclean as much as it did sexual perversions, I think people would have a different perspective. But oh man, like you want to talk about getting stones thrown at you, you tell a Christian you can't eat a pig. Like honestly, that's like some of the worst times that I've had talking to Christians is whenever you mention
Yeah.
something like that.
so how'd that
Are you a Muslim?
Yeah,
exactly? So how did that topic work out with me, Jeremiah?
right. I don't know. It's been a while. Oh, yeah, Jamie, I was going to ask you, do you have a testimony video somewhere? And if you don't, would you be interested in making one with me, and could I put it on my channel? That's something that I would like to do is get testimonies of of people who are of the obedience faith.
Yeah, I don't have like a one per se that's like this is my testimony, but I have I could point you
I
to a
mean, I'm
video where
sure
I
you do
talk
have one,
about
but
it.
yeah. So,
So because
anyways, I was curious.
I grew up believing, I kind of grew up believing and being lukewarm, and then the classic of kind of going my own way for a long time, and then there was a moment where I barely got it flipped around, sort of thing. And I've talked about that before. I'll send it to you.
Okay, cool.
But it'd probably be better to just make a new one or whatever and talk to you about it. Probably would be better because it was just kind of I've talked about it a few times just at random, but
Okay. Anyway, that was just a passion of mine. I think if people could hear people just genuinely talk about how they came to the faith and how they came into knowledge of obedience and stuff like that, it would be maybe a more open setting. And then just because we tend to do long videos whenever we get talking, and not everybody has a whole lot of time. So I was trying to think of something that was maybe like a half hour to an hour that someone could listen like on the way to work or their lunch break or something like that. And just get a real human's perspective on what happened to them and how they got to where they're at now, I guess. That was
yeah, the better ones are people who are either non-believers or didn't grow up like. So I'm like the worst because I knew better. Like I never stopped believing in God. I just went my own way for a long time. But it's still it might be an interesting story. But the better ones, I think, usually are the ones that are people who like had totally been taught wrong, and then when they realized the truth, they actually flipped around. I'm like the worst kind of trash because I was like I knew the truth to at least to a certain degree and still disregarded it. So scary stuff.
it's just the story of Ephraim, sir. Grew up in his father's house, knew all the rules, and said, I don't need this. Why don't you give me my inheritance? I'm going out into the world to do my own thing. And then he wakes up in a pig pen, and whenever he goes home, his father, puts the best clothes on him and gives him a ring and a title and all that stuff.
I guess I do have an interesting. I was drifting away. I'll just tell you this real quick. I was drifting away, and I felt like like God put on my heart just like that. I realized like it was a crossroads, like now or never sort of thing. At least I'm not going to say God put that on my heart necessarily. I don't know, right? But it seemed like it. For whatever reason, I realized if I keep going this way, it's like I'm going to stop. Even this is going to like essentially I'm going to stop caring, and I'm just going to go that way and never look back. And then that struck me as like a fearful thing. But then I was just like kind of fledgling, like maybe God doesn't exist sort of thing. And then, I mean, I asked God to just say, I was just like, make it real for me if you can, because I'm worried I'm at a crossroads. And then
That's a scary prayer to pray, isn't
Yeah.
it?
I woke up, and of course I was like a struggling drug addict, and I just don't have dreams and remember them anymore. I know everybody says that when they talk about this sort of thing, but I was working outside in the cold, freezing winter, making like a pathway in my yard, with like sand and pavers. And it was the middle of winter. And so I had on like 3 pairs of pants, the whole 9 yards, a coat, boots, winter boots, one of those hats with the flaps that go over your ears, like in your picture. And like, I was working all day, and I came into my bedroom, and I don't really remember falling asleep, but I had prayed that day, show me, make it real or whatever. And all I know is that I did end up falling asleep fully dressed, including my boots were on with the winter socks, the whole 9 yards. I didn't have gloves on, but I had my boots on still. And I woke up in my bed with my boots on, with the covers over me, like the sheets, the whole 9. Excuse me. And but here's the thing that this is I've only told this a couple of times, but I actually think this was from God. The one time I had a dream from God, and here's the dream. Really, in reality, the dream is 2 seconds long. But so I woke up, I opened my eyes, and I'm laying in the fetal position in my front yard under a particular tree that I wasn't particularly fond of. I didn't particularly like it that much. I'd put every single plant in my yard. I mean, I spent hundreds of hours redoing my whole entire yard. It was my grandmother's house. I'm really into gardening, and so I've like every plant I know, and I placed myself, including I cut the garden bed and the lawn like into what it was, and removed every old plant one by one by hand. But I woke up under this particular tree, and I wasn't in the grass. I was in the mud part, the dirt part of my yard. I was naked in the fetal position, and I opened my eyes and I could see the sky, and it was winter. And I knew I was in the mud, and I knew that I was naked and in the fetal position. And I'm just like coming to, and my eyes are opening, and I'm looking through this tree, which didn't have any leaves, or, it was winter, right? So all the leaves are gone. And I'm looking through the empty branches into the sky. It's windy, cold, overcast, like it's about to snow. And as I'm looking, wondering what the heck I'm doing in the yard naked in the dirt, sleeping out there when it's this cold out. And as that thought hits my mind, I noticed something on the branches, and it's like it looked like kind of like when there's caterpillars infesting a tree, That's what I thought it was at first. And then I noticed, no, there's little buds popping out on the branches to sprout. And I realized, oh, those are leaves sprouting. And just as I was about to gasp from this like impossible thing happening before my eyes, just when I go to let out like a gasp, I felt like from behind me, somebody was holding a garden hose turned on full blast without a nozzle on it. Just the hose, like a really strong flow of water, ice cold water out of a hose. And just as I'm about to gasp at my amazement at the tree, the water hits the side of my chest, because I'm laying on my side, kind of looking up in the fetal position. I don't look back, but the water hits me, and then I gasp even harder from that cold water striking me, right? And then I wake up in my bed. And the dream was so vivid, like it was just, whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know, that sort of thing. Like I just in the yard, and I realized I was in my bed, and I'm like, I was still felt ice cold, covered in water, shivering, like ice cold water, naked. That's how I felt. And now I'm like, okay, I'm in my bed. How did I get here? And it took me like 30 seconds for my brain to adjust. So I look down, I'm like shivering, right? Like goosebumps. And I look at my body, and I'm like, oh my, what the heck? I'm fully dressed. I'm under the covers. I take the covers off. My first thought is, oh, I know. I'm having a dream. I think I'm all sweaty, or like I wet the bed, or I'm just like covered in sweat, right? Because I'm all covered. I have all these clothes on, but I'm like, I'm ice cold. And it took me like 30 seconds to realize, hey, I'm not cold. And then I'm thinking I must be just soaked in sweat. And then I'm coming to more, and I'm like, I wasn't actually sweaty at all. Not, in fact, as I came to, like I was comfortable somehow. I should have been sweaty because I was under these covers with fully clothed, like with winter clothes on. And then it went from going odd one way to being odd that like, I'm actually comfortable now. Like I'm not even sweaty at all, which I should be sweaty. So like, it didn't make sense to think it was like one of those where like your dream is associated with being your condition, So I can't explain it better than that, but it was so intensely not how it should have been, and how vivid and real it was, struck me. And then I laid there, when I was comfortable, I kind of took my boots off and I laid back, and it was dark. And then I suddenly just got this weird overcome with like fear. And it was pitch black in my room, and I felt like there was a presence in the room with me, and I was just absolutely like scared. Now I'm like thinking, is this like a demonic attack? I mean, it was like overwhelming. And I lay there and I prayed. And as soon as I prayed, I never get this sort of thing or have this sort of experience, but like all of a sudden I was at total peace in a weird way, like going from like frozen with fear to like peace. And then I woke up the next day, and of course, like the next few days, this is just like on my mind. That was this weird out of the place experience. And I was thinking that had to be from God or whatever. The next day I just felt compelled, and I can't explain this either. Why was I kept thinking, why am I under that tree? It was a dogwood. And I'm like, why does it, I don't even like that tree. It seems like I would have had a dream about being under one of my favorite trees, because I'm into Japanese maples. I had like 16 different kinds. I'm like, why? I don't really even like that tree. I kind of thought I wanted to replace it. But I felt compelled to I'm going to look up what this tree's all about. So I just felt compelled. I went to the internet, looked it up. The first thing I went to is like a cultural reference. And there's like a legend that goes back to the 1st century about like the wedding, and people would use the boughs of that kind of dogwood tree for like, it had to do with like a wedding and a bride sort of thing. And then the other cultural reference was a Christian legend that said, it's probably made up. Okay. But it goes way back, and they don't know when it started, but it seemed to have started like right back in the 1st century, and it was like this kind of idea that there were dogwood trees in Judea. It's probably not true, but it's just interesting that this is a legend I've never heard before. And I went straight to this. It just like under Cornus in Wikipedia, and like it was like somebody was guiding me to it. I can't explain it, but it goes like the dogwood is actually a tree that people said the cross was made out of, and that the dogwood felt so guilty after being used as the crucifying the one who created it, right? Like metaphorically speaking, that therefore dogwoods never grew big enough again to be able to made a cross out of them. And I know this sounds really weird, but it was meaningful to me. And so like if you look at a dogwood, like they have 4 petals on the flowers, and they're called like a crown of thorns or whatever in the middle of the way the flowers are, and they get like reddish hue on the ends of the cross or whatever, the 4 petals. And so people have associated it with like with the sacrifice of Christ or whatever, and that's probably why the legend formed or whatever. And they don't get big enough anymore to make. Anyways, that was meaningful to me, and so that really changed my life in a lot of ways. So
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
sorry I went on so long. I didn't think it would
No,
take that
no,
long.
not at all. We don't have anything to do. Just your show that's coming up. So, yeah. If Dustin's got to go, he'll hop out. And I'm not doing anything till your show, so yeah. Whatever, whatever happens. That was a great story, or testimony. So
I still don't know what that means per se, but I know I woke up in the mud under the tree of, which I think is associated with under the cross and the whole thing. And with, I think it may mean something like you need the atonement, and you need, and that maybe the time is getting closer. I don't know, something to do with that, but I'm not sure. I'm open to interpretations from people. I know that's kind of weird, and I'm not that type of person, believer usually, but if I'm honest, I do think that
it
it's
brought you
God.
home. I mean, I think whatever it did, it worked, or whatever it was, you know. So, yeah, no complaints there. But blind, naked, hungry, cold. That's definitely some words that are used to describe the church in the last days. You know, so yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
don't
makes
I don't
sense.
have a problem with any of that at all. That the dream makes
Yeah,
perfect
if
sense
you
to
think
me.
of anything good or bad about it, let me know. I don't know what the water thing is all about. It was just, but it was like jumping into ice cold bath sort of thing.
Yeah, that's very interesting. The only thing I can think of about the tree, in particular, of course, is what you mentioned already. The cross supposedly made from that wood. So maybe under you know Yeshua's dying on the cross, maybe have something to do with part of it. I don't know, just some 2 cents.
Yeah, I have to say it was very intensely like when I'm looking back, I really have to say I couldn't get it off my mind about it being that tree. It was like implanted in my head to like just have that just be bugging me. And like I felt compelled to go just look up about that tree, just whatever. I had never heard that legend. I know I've never heard that legend because I would remember something like that. So
I'm from Missouri, and the state tree is the dogwood, and I don't know that legend. So, you know what I mean? Like, you know more about the dogwood than I do.
I think it's still on under Cornus on Wikipedia. You can go under cultural reference. I think they've changed the thing, but like it was weird because I went right to it. I just Googled it, and then I was like Cornus, and I clicked the first one was Wikipedia. I went to Wikipedia. I saw cultural reference, and I just like went straight to that. Opened it up and just started reading. And pow, there it was. And it was just like, yeah, it was crazy for me anyway. Like just the way it was. I mean, that's for me, like not for anybody else, but I don't tell it very often.
No, I definitely appreciate you sharing. I didn't see anything bad in it at all. I think that God was showing you where you were at and showing you where you were going. You know, that was yeah. So that's great, man. I love hearing testimonies, the way God works in people's lives, and the um, condition of the heart coming in and just, um, I guess in Jacob's perspective, really struggling or wrestling with God. You know what I mean? Like, you knew, you grew up in the church, so you knew, but then you got entangled in the world, but you never lost belief, and just, having that struggle with God. Like, you're trying to figure things out, and then um, whenever you do actually, submit and pray with an open heart, he answers. And that is, in my mind, like one of the prayers that will always get answered. Like that I would say that a vast majority of the testimonies that I've heard involve that prayer, if not every single one of them. I'm struggling to think of one that I haven't heard that in. But yeah, it's very common from what
I
I've heard.
encourage atheists, that I encounter to, a few times I have anyway. It's not like I do it all the time. To reach out and ask to God, to show Himself and make Himself known, and it's hard for Him to resist that sort of thing. And I pretty much guarantee that He will answer that call. So I don't know.
Yeah, I normally quote it as Deuteronomy 4, like 27 to 31 or something like that, but actually I think it starts at 26. But verse 30 is mainly the focus. That, in the tribulation, when all these words come upon you, even in the latter days, if you seek Him with all your heart, and you shall find Him whenever you search with all your heart and with all your being, and He will not forsake the covenant that He made with your fathers. So, I mean, I look at that open heart prayer as these three verses right here. Like,
Gotcha.
if you have these things, that is the prayer that will always get answered. So,
Hey, I
yeah.
gotta run, bro. I agree with you on that. I'm gonna get ready for the stream, and I gotta eat something. So, thanks for letting me talk. I appreciate that, and I appreciate what you're doing here.
Yep. Anytime, sir. It's great having you.
Come back next time. All right, Deezer. I need to get some food too in my system,
Probably not a bad idea.
and
Probably not a bad idea.
then you just need to get your butt here into town, and we can get together on Jamie's video. Do some Torah terrorism.
Oh, man. The early days of coming to Torah, I was definitely not a nice person to talk to. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that zealous nature one gets. It's like, I don't know. That's many
Yep.
of us, sure.
All right, sir. Yeah, I need to get some food as well. And yeah, I guess I'll see you on Jamie's stream. You got his info?
Nope, I do not.
All right, I'll send it to you.
All right, man. Laters.
Alrighty. Shalom all. Thanks for stopping by. Great to see everybody.